to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are we moving to housing? Okay. All right, we will adjourn to Garden Grove Housing Authority. It's me again. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Commissioner Dovin.
Present.
Commissioner Klumpenstein.
Here.
Commissioner Tan Nguyen.
Yeah.
Commissioner O'Neill.
Here.
Commissioner Tran.
Here.
Vice Chair Kim Nguyen.
Here.
And Chair Brigham.
Here.
And Commissioner Jones and Commissioner Beckles are absent tonight.
Okay, we will move on to oral communications. I don't think we have any for the Housing Authority. Is there anybody here that wishes to address the Garden Grove Housing Authority? Okay, seeing none, we will close oral communications and we will move on to public hearings.
Item 2A is adoption of a resolution approving the Garden Grove Housing Authority biennial budget for fiscal year 2023-24 and fiscal year 2024-25. This is a joint action item with the City Council, but does require it does require a public hearing. And Mr. Mr. Huynh and Mr. Alvaro are here to give the report.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. The Housing Voucher Assistance Program is federally funded through the Department of Housing and Urban Development to assist very low-income families, seniors, and disabled persons in payment of rent on privately owned rental units. The Housing Authority subsidized over 2,400 families, and we also administered an additional 320 families from incoming portability. Incoming portabilities are participants from other housing authorities in other jurisdictions who moved into Garden Grove. An administrative fee is paid to the Garden Grove Housing Authority to administer these families. All Housing Authority rental units are inspected before admissions and annually or biannually to ensure they are decent, safe, and sanitary. It is estimated that each year Housing Authority staff perform nearly 3,000 inspections. We also administer the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. This program is for our current Section 8 participants and is designed to encourage tenant participation in education and career development. In addition, the Housing Authority has assets from former Garden Grove Agency. These assets include land purchase with housing set-aside funds and several affordable housing agreements. Revenues generated from these agreements is used for the production of affordable housing and operational costs of administering the assets. I will now turn over to the Finance Manager, Mr. Alvaro Castellon, to complete the report.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. It is a pleasure to present to you the Housing Authority proposed biennial budget for fiscal year 23-25. And in order to continue the initiatives that our Housing Manager just presented on, we're proposing the following revenue and expenditure amounts for the Housing Authority. We have a beginning fund balance of about $5 million, and we're projecting a housing allocation from HUD of about $48.9 million in fiscal year 23-24. This brings the total sources to $53.8 million. On the expenditure side, we are proposing total expenditures at $49.6 million. We're budgeting $40.2 million in the voucher program, $4.8 in the HAP portability program, $613 in other housing programs such as the tenant-based rental assistance and legal expenses, and about $4 million for the administration of the program. This allocation funds about 19 positions. And we're also projecting an ending fund balance of about $4.2 million for fiscal year 23-24. In fiscal year 24-25, we're projecting the housing allocation at $51 million and total sources available at $55.2. Expenditures for 24-25 are proposed at $51.9 million, and we are projecting an ending fund balance of about $3.4 million. Staff's recommendation is for the Housing Authority Board to adopt a budget resolution approving the biennial budget for fiscal year 23-24 and fiscal year 24-25 in order to continue the provision of the housing programs. That concludes our presentation, and staff is available for any questions.
Do we have any questions? Or do
I
you
have-
want to wait till,
Yeah, I can wait.
Questions for the, just questions on the presentation and
Yeah.
then public.
all right, Commissioner Dovin?
A question, do we have any mandatory reserve amount that we need to keep? Or can we expend all the way up to what's allocated?
We can expend up to what's allocated,
So there's no mandatory reserve?
no mandatory.
Thank you.
Questions? Okay, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Is there anyone wishing to address the housing, the Housing Authority on this matter? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, and we will entertain a motion or comment. Oh, was there a question? All right, and then bring it back. I do have a question. I know regarding to the Housing Authority, last year we were able to report successfully, we had no unhoused homeless veterans in the city of Garden Grove. We've accomplished that at 0, right?
Right.
And I want to assume it's still the same for this year?
It's still the same.
Very good, very good. And Commissioner Cindy?
Yeah, just a quick comments. The last couple of days, we have couple of residents in kind of contacted me in my district and asking about they have applied for housing for so long and they have been waiting for that for many years. Bless you. Just want to say thanks to Maria, Lisa, and I think some of the team members for taking the call and explain to the individual and also let them know where they're at in the process. And I heard that they're gonna get it really soon, right? So just want to say thank you to the staff for listening to the resident and answer their call, because they just didn't know, how long I have to wait and where is it. And so just want to say thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion, we have a second. Call for the vote. I guess it's a voice vote. Okay.
Commissioner Dovin.
Aye.
Commissioner Klumpenstein.
Yes.
Commissioner Tan Nguyen. Commissioner O'Neill. Commissioner Tran.
Yes.
Vice Chair Kim Nguyen.
Yes.
Chair Brigham.
Yes.
Motion received, 7 yes votes.
Yeah, Commissioner, yeah, you forgot, we got extra commissioners on. Okay. We will move on to matters. Is there any matters? Okay, seeing none, we will adjourn. The next regular Housing Authority meeting will be Tuesday, June 27th, at the Community Meeting Center. Back to, or are we going to successor now?
City Council.
Back to council. Okay, reopen the Garden Grove City Council. You get out of here. We'll reopen the Garden Grove City Council and move on to presentations. 1A.
Item 1A is a community spotlight in recognition of Pacifica High School's varsity softball team for winning the CIF Southern Section Division I championship.
Yeah.
And Assistant City Manager Maria Stipe will read the spotlight.
Thank you, Ms. Pomeroy. This evening, the City of Garden Grove City Council is very pleased to recognize Pacifica High School's varsity softball team for winning the CIF Southern Section Division I championship. So I'd like to ask the Pacifica High School varsity softball team, Coach Tony Adino, assistant coaches Randy Franzman, Joseph Alvarez, Matt Swenson, and Brian Kleckton to please come forward along with all of the teammates. So if everybody can please come forward. Going to have you all kind of just stand along the front here.
And then face the chair.
So for 4 years, Tony Ardino has been coaching the Pacifica High School varsity softball team and was recently named the Orange County Coach of the Year by the Orange County Register. This season, with 23 wins and 8 losses, the Mariners recently won the division championship against Norco High School 15-9. With this win under their belt, the Mariners sealed their Orange County record 8th section title and ended the highest scoring section final in history. The road to becoming CIF champions was not easy, but the team stayed motivated and humbled by the team's inspirational motto, "We're not that good," Coach Tony Ardino came up with. This is a tongue-in-cheek slogan after he overheard a few opposing players saying that the Mariners were overrated. Junior left fielder Delania Mahe said, "It was a roller coaster of a season, but we showed that we can persevere through any hardships that can come our way. We can go through anything and still bounce back no matter what." As the season comes to an end, Coach Tony Ardino reflects on the team's hard work and says, "I'm very proud of our girls because of how much we sacrificed to get here, and it all paid off. Because of that adversity, that's exactly why we're CIF champions." At this time, the mayor and city council would like to present the Pacifica High School varsity softball team coach Tony Ardino and the assistant coaches with certificates for winning the CIF Southern Section Division I championship, along with the full team. Congratulations. We wish all of them the very best in all of their future academic and athletic endeavors. Congratulations.
I think it says the same thing as what she just said, so.
Are there names on
And what we'll do. And we'll give a few more here for the coach, and what I'm gonna do is have you guys come in here, and we're gonna take a picture in the alcove here. So straight back behind you. Go all the way.
Oh, okay, amazing. We could do it after. We'll do it after. Just separate.
We've had 30 in here, so we can do this.
You're not that good, it's just great.
Sure, we'll do that.
Good job, guys.
All right, we'll move on to 1B, Community Spotlight in the NJROTC Pacifica High School.
Item 1B is a community spotlight in recognition of Pacifica High School's NJROTC program for their history-making placement at the NJROTC Nationals And again, Assistant City Manager Maria Stipe will provide the spotlight.
Thank you, Ms. Pomeroy. So, as Mayor Pro Tem George Brightigam just mentioned, we'd like to recognize the Pacifica High School's NJROTC program for their history-making placement at the NJROTC Nationals. Would the Pacifica High School NJROTC cadets please come forward? Okay, Pacifica High School's NJROTC program was first established in 1996 with the mission to instill confidence, self-discipline, and patriotism. The NJROTC cadets carry out the program's mission by competing in academic, athletic, and drill competitions, by participating in numerous community service events. During spring break this year, Pacifica High School's NJROTC program competed in the Academic, Athletic, and Drill National Championship in Pensacola, Florida, where they placed fourth out of 623 programs in the nation. Definitely worthy of applause. In the history of the NJROTC Nationals, no first-time competing school has ever had as high of an overall placement as Pacifica High School. Many of the nation's finest NJROTC units participated in the NJROTC Nationals, which is known as the most comprehensive test of overall JROTC training and performance in existence. Led by Captain Todd Gier and First Sergeant James Haslip, the Pacifica High School NJROTC program qualified for the NJROTC Nationals by successfully competing in the Southern California Area Championships and the state championships. The cadets worked incredibly hard over the summer, before and after school, and over the weekends and holidays to prepare for this year's competition season. At this time, the mayor and city council would like to present the Pacifica High School NJROTC program with certificates in recognition of their history-making placement at the NJROTC Nationals. Congratulations and very well done.
And we have some nice certificates for you guys as well. The names, I'm just gonna give you a certificate, and you get them to the right names after we do the photos, okay? Little switcheroo. Yeah, there will be. And can we get the principal? Come on up. We can let you hold these. How's that? Very good. And can we just come around here for a photograph?
Their names are?
As a former ROTC member myself, I'm really happy.
Mr. Principal, could you call out their names so we know who they are?
That's a great idea. Well, hold on, let's get the photos and we'll.
Sure.
Can they open their certificate?
Yeah, hold open your certificate.
They don't have to write names, but.
No.
Oh, he did. Look at that.
Play the lottery.
Not everyone, but I do know Commander Doe, so why don't you do the honor, Cadet Commander? Next year's Cadet Commander, Matthew Doe.
Troy Fowle, John Vu, Grace Nguyen, Alexa Chavez, and Carly Miller.
Good job. Hopefully next year you guys will be first.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely.
Coming back. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
We'll give him time. And I'd also like to recognize that we have school board member Terry Rocco in the audience with us as well. Okay, we'll move on to oral communications. I do have some cards here, so let me start off. Real is Mat.
That's you?
You changed your name?
It's got my name on there.
Oh, down below. I'm sorry.
Somebody explain this to George.
I'm hard of hearing.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and City Council, hardworking city staff, that says real easy math.
Okay.
All right? This past Saturday, I went to the little function over here in Steelcase, and Senator Nguyen was there, and Councilmember O'Neill, Ms. Tran, Kloppenstein. We had a great time. But I heard some misinformation there, and I want to correct it. Somebody mentioned that gasoline taxes in the state of California were going up first part of July, 7.1%, because of an initiative that was passed years ago by the taxpayers of California. And that's not true. I did a lot of research. I checked with a couple of legal sources. There's no initiative that was passed that raised gasoline taxes. But a lot of people were still complaining about the price of gasoline. I happened to look around and notice that there were some people there drinking coffee from that great big company based in the Pacific Northwest. And I did a little math. If you want a large cup of coffee from that company, it's $3.50, and you get a 16-ounce cup. So if you want a gallon of that coffee, you have to buy 8 cups, because 16 times 8 is 128, which oddly enough is how many ounces there are in a gallon. So if you pay $3.50 and you need to buy 8 cups, how much is that for a gallon of coffee from that company? I'm going to help you out with that. That's $28. So which do you think is harder to produce, a gallon of coffee or a gallon of gasoline? So you have a choice. Quit drinking so much coffee or quit driving so much. There is one other choice. You could do what I did, buy a bunch of stock in Chevron and ExxonMobil, and I really don't care how high the price of gasoline goes because I'm making money. It's paying my bills. I don't really care. So you guys keep driving, forget those EVs, buy that gasoline. I need the dividends. Thank you.
So I have Nicholas Dibbs.
Mayor Pro Tem George Bradigan, members of the City Council. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Nicholas Dibbs, teacher educator. It was a pleasure to be here with the recognition of the Pacifica High School Navy Junior ROTC and the girls softball team. I'm alumni, honors alumni of Pacifica, and run for school board twice. So thank you for recognizing them. I do want to bring to your attention, and I've mentioned this in the past, the importance of allowing people to speak here who can't be here in person for medical or other conditions and or disabilities under the ADA Act. You allowed people to call in during the pandemic. I'm asking that the council please don't forget this important request. I'm not making this request for me, obviously, because I'm here. But for those people like Mr. Craig Durfee and others who cannot be here, they should be afforded an opportunity to provide their 3 minutes of public comment. I have provided you with an email on his behalf which gives 7 important points, and we're asking that Lisa Kim respond on behalf of the council, City Manager Kim, to these 7 points, which have to do a lot of it with increasing the green space here in Garden Grove. I won't go into the 7 points, but I will, since Mr. Durfee can't be here, I'll play part of what he said.
Grove. I've committed my retirement and prior to that to causes that are beneficial to all. And I don't understand the middle of our bike pedestrian trail when there was a will to carry it on to mental health by our Mayor, Honorable Mayor Jones and the LCD board. And as you go from Bill Murray, and now it would be going further to Bixby and Chapman. And so as such, there are many things and emails that have occurred, and there is just not an organization to finish it. The heat index is a real issue now, and there need to be some benches and some shade and drinking. and combined with the urban, what they call the general plan, calls for covering walls for graffiti, which I brought before the planning commission. And it's in code to save money. Wood chips. It brings tourism, increases the value of property by green space. It helps ecotherapy for mental health and for tourism. It's not being organized in a way for me to understand for all the writing I've done about the issues and pictures. And I got the block wall fence, well, the fence on occasion it was Bill Donovan, Bill Bach, and Rita, great people, and I talked to Bill, OCTA agreed to put a fence. But we should not struggle in our community for things that are basic to all of us.
Okay, anyway, thank you for listening. You have the email. Please take a look at it. I'm giving you each a hard copy, and that's for Ms. Kim and for the city and for the clerk, and then one for each of the council members.
Thank you. I understand these 4 individuals are coming up for, or 5 individuals are coming up for the same, want to come up together for the same issue. I have is it Ruby Garcia, Thomas Tai, Richard Jung? Okay, so it's Ruby's separate? It got clipped in there. Okay, so let's call Ruby Garcia first, then we'll call the rest of them. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Mayor Pro Tem, members of City Council, City Manager Kim, and City staff. My name is Ruby Garcia, and I'm the CEO and founder of the Andean Aid and Safety Group. Our group works with law enforcement agencies to bring safety events for special needs families. We host these events in a quiet environment to prevent any sensory overload and allows law enforcement to interact with these amazing families. We're also very proud to say this program was pioneered in Garden Grove with Garden Grove PD, and we're excited to announce that we're bringing it back again this year. Not only does our group host these safety events, we also chartered a special needs community group through Kiwanis of Greater Garden Grove Morning Club called Special Kids of Greater Garden Grove K-Kids Club, and we serve our community with special needs children grades pre-K through 6 on the last Sunday of the month at 10 a.m. at Brookdale Nursing Home here in our very own Garden Grove. With that said, our nonprofit needs assistance, and a restaurant called 9999 Pho has graciously is going to be giving us 10% on all sales on June 22nd. So I invite everyone to come out and eat at this delicious restaurant and help our nonprofit. The address to this restaurant is 10742 Westminster Avenue, Garden Grove, 92843. And our own group, along with others, will be eating at this restaurant that evening. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Okay, we will bring up for the festival Mr. Stephen Mai, Mr. Peter Kim, Richard Jung, and Thomas Tai.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council men and women, and the staff, City Manager. My name is Thomas Guk Tai, and I'm a co-chairman of Asian Pacific Festival. Will be held on October 12 to 15, 2023 on Garden Grove Park. Next to me is Mr. Richard Chung. He's a co-chair too. Peter, he's Korean. He's a Richard assistant, and Stephen is my assistant. Also, I have Mr. John Joe. He's Korean next to me. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to say thank you to the city staff of Garden Grove, Janet, John, Sean, even Lisa Kim was helping us to put everything together so we can stay in front of you to asking and put up an agenda to ask you to say yes and vote yes for us to have the festival on Garden Grove. Now, this event, I don't know, it's small, big, or medium, because it's not happened yet. After today, I will know. But this festival is special to us. Why is special? Special because of two hearts will beat as one. This time will be the heart of the Vietnamese community will beat the same time with the heart of Korean community. Has never happened before. Okay, I think this is the best time to put everybody together in Garden Grove. Some people say that why don't we do in Fullerton, in Buena Park or Cerritos, where a lot of Koreans people live there. I say no, because we love Garden Grove. Garden Grove City is a beautiful city that can be held this kind of festival, and we want to do yearly, not just this time only. So we will put everything together because this is the time that we will share the cultural between the Vietnamese culture with the Korean, such as we will build a Vietnamese village inside there next to the Korean village, so we can share to our community, to the city of Garden Grove, and to the people that around the city, even though in the world. So please help us to get this together. I know there's going to be a lot of things need to be done in the near, next few months, because the October is very close. So we're asking you to vote yes for us to have opportunity to this to do this event. Thank you very much. Okay, want to say something?
I'm Korean. Arang Festival is Arang Festival is 40 years history. That's why this time always is a Korean solo. This time Vietnam community with Korean community together we do a festival. Can you help? Thank you.
Help us, please.
Yeah, hi. Some of you might know me. I'm Stephen Mai. I was the co-chairman for the third festival that UVSA did here in Garden Grove back in 2001. And I'm here trying to help the group here. I know with 40 years of Arirang Festival and the experience and network with Mr. Thomas Quoc Thai has, I believe this one is going to be a successful one. A happy city is a city that has happy residents with many festivals and events, right? So hopefully this one will be one. It's a chance for the Vietnamese, the Korean, and the local residents to join together. And since we live in the same city together, might as well enjoy it and have fun together. So please consider our permit. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank
No,
you.
it's public communication. It's oral comments. But thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, is there anyone else wishing to address the Garden Grove City Council tonight? Oh, we have a hand. Can you come up, state your name and address, and go ahead and...
Yes, hi, my name is Brian Malley. As I'm getting ready to retire this year, I've been very busy. Last time I was here was September 13th, when the Garden Grove City Council voted to spend $5,650,000 for the West Street location for the Navigation Center, which was about a $4 million premium over what that property, the deed transfer to West Street Investments was less than a year before that. So I apologize for going over my 3 minutes at that time to everyone who was here. But anyway, being a gentleman of a certain age, the only way I know how to describe that is like a brother-in-law deal. And, I had said that, why don't we wait and vote on that? That was September 13th. The discussion that came up was, there's 6 months of due diligence on there. 2 weeks later, in the next city council meeting, it was approved to purchase that property, which I don't know how much due diligence. That property had been used with all kinds of chemicals for many years, so hopefully we did our homework and everything's fine. Anyway, that's all I want to say on that. The second one is on the April 25th. I've been out of the country, so I've been catching up. On the April 25th, the Garden Grove City Council passed a consent item authorizing up to 5 members of the council to go to Korea. Isn't that a problem with the Brown Act? How can a quorum be traveling to conduct city business? I don't know. The last time in 2016, something like that happened, there was all kinds of hoorah about this Borlatch stuff. So I would hope that you would, besides city council, whose company was the ones who advised on that, you might check your own personal lawyer or legal counsel. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the Garden Grove City Council? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close oral communications, and we will go to written communications 3A.
Item 3A is a consideration of a written request from the Korean Festival Committee of Orange County to host the Arang Festival at Garden Grove Park on October 12th, 2023 through October 15th, 2023. And Ms. Palayo from Community Services is here to give that report.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. Staff is here to convey the written request on behalf of the Korean Festival Committee of Orange County to conduct the 39th Annual Arirang Festival at Garden Grove Park. That would be starting on Thursday, October 12th through Sunday, October 15, 2023. For almost 40 years, the Korean Chamber of Commerce of Orange County and nonprofit organizations have hosted the annual Arirang Festival, formerly known as the Korean Festival in Garden Grove. In more recent years, the festivals have been held at Garden Square parking lot on Garden Grove Boulevard. The organizers have provided an event layout that includes carnival rides, food, vendors, traditional Korean entertainment, and other activities for families to enjoy. Staff has confirmed that the nonprofit organization is in good standing with the IRS and with the Secretary of State office. If this request is approved, staff will prepare a formal agreement between the city and the organization. The agreement will include provisions related to the reimbursement for city support and all direct costs, reimbursement for lost revenue as a result of festival activities, allowable festival activities, traffic and parking plan, and insurance requirements. Approval of this request will not have a financial impact to the city. The organization would be required to reimburse the city for all of the direct costs incurred to support the Arirang Festival. The amount to be reimbursed has yet to be determined at this time. It is recommended that the City Council consider this request for the Arirang Festival to be held at Garden Grove Park this October. And if approved, authorize the city manager to prepare and execute a formal agreement between the city and the organization. This concludes staff report, and staff as well as representatives of the group are here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Do I have any questions of staff? Councilmember Dovin?
I'm going to reserve my question for staff, but I do have some comments before I vote on this item to the presenters and applicants.
Comments? Councilwoman Tran?
Yes, sir. So this event had been happened in the past in terms of in my district, District 3. And so this is the first time that they're gonna do at the Garden Grove Park, which is also District 3. I'm super excited just because, you know, they could do it anywhere else. And I think there was a lot of conversation with our staff to see where would be the best place to do it. So, and I'm super excited that it's gonna be in my district. So I know that our staff, our council member have been talking about multicultural, right? Like Kim have, council member Kim Nguyen had talked about it a couple of times, and I think this would be an opportunity for us to do something like that. Like one of the speakers mentioned earlier, this is the place for people to enjoy and have fun. And so hopefully this is the first time, and then maybe some other event for other culture, we're gonna do that in our city. So that's it. Feedback from me, comment.
Councilwoman Klopfenstein?
Yeah, I've had an opportunity to look over the proposal as well as the event map and layout. It looks like a lot of time and work has been put into both. As the speakers mentioned, this could have been held in many different cities, Buena Park, Fullerton, and the like, but this is an opportunity to bring people from other cities in Orange County to Garden Grove, which is very exciting. This is a multicultural event that I think will be well attended, and I'm in support. Obviously, I think there's others that are as well, but I'll move the item.
Councilwoman Kim Nguyen?
I'll second it, but I do have a question and a comment. Can you please tell me where the festival will be located off of the park? Is that, I'm seeing that part of that is the Westminster Street, so I'm assuming that's the softball area?
It would be the football /
Softball.
soccer fields, because
Soccer.
half of the fields.
Okay.
So the side that the softball fields are on would not be part of the festival grounds. So only half of the field.
Only, okay.
Yeah.
And then my comments were just, I remember when the TEP Festival was at Garden Grove Park, it was further back. But I entrust that the individuals who are helping support this, who have that level of experience, who brought something I think much larger in the past when it was a TAP festival, have the capability of making sure that this is done well, and making sure to preserve the park that we have. Because if you haven't been attending our meetings, we don't have a lot of money flowing, and we've done some renovations, and this is a portion of the park that is utilized by others for outside of school. So this is like outside leagues that play football there. I think it's the Bulldogs, and I don't remember who else for soccer, but want to make sure that they're able to use it afterwards. But I have full confidence in the folks who have experience putting on these types of festivals. And so I gladly second the motion.
I'm extremely excited. It's little known, but Garden Grove actually has the second largest Vietnamese population in Southern California, or in California. And we have the second largest Vietnamese business district, which half of it's in my district, in the first district, and the other half is in Cindy's district. And in the spirit of multiculturalism and everything, I would love to see some of these larger festivals come over to the west side. It'd be kind of cool, but I know parking over there is probably going to be more of a problem. But with that being said, I am very supportive of this, and I'd love to see it happen. And I think Councilman Dovin wanted to.
Yes, I reserved questions because I really don't have any questions for staff right now, but I do want to chime in with the rest of the council that we are very supportive of your event. We welcome any collaborative effort and cooperation between the different communities. So this may be a first, but I hope it's not the last. And I would like the organizers to open it up to other communities also. We have a very vibrant Hispanic community. We have Chinese, we have Filipinos. And of course, we have Koreans, which I don't know you three gentlemen, but I happily support you without reservation. I do know the two Vietnamese gentlemen, Mr. Mai, Mr. Tai, you both have my phone numbers. You can call me anytime. I just have a word of caution in that I want this event to be a uniting event versus being a divisive one. And I have a little bit of a personal interest in this particular event because I am Vietnamese American. I've been in this community over 20 years. My wife, Dina Nguyen, was on council, and she voted for a resolution to recognize Little Saigon in Garden Grove. So if you can, please recognize Little Saigon Garden Grove in your event. We are also a Korean business district. So as much as we can work together to internationalize, to bring in as many people to this event as possible, I'm all for it, and I want this event to grow. If it goes as big as the TED Festival, great. Let's grow this Asian festival. But beware that we have some sensitivities. So who you invite as sponsors and who you invite as guests may cause controversy. And I trust Mr. Mai because his integrity as a co-chair of UVSA way back when, I know him personally, that I trust him. And I trust Mr. Tai. I go to his mall, the QT over there, and I patronize that business. And I actually ask everyone to patronize that business because it is Garden Grove, right in Miss Councilwoman Cindy Tran's district. And as the mayor says, you have an open invitation to his district should you want to do events over there. So we welcome you. Thank you very much. We support you without reservation. I will vote for it. Just a word of caution, there are going to be people who might undermine your cause, but don't worry about it. We'll stick it out, and we want this event to keep coming back every year. So thank you very much.
John, you have a question?
Yeah, I was just going to chime in. You're going to have unanimous support, but I really like the fact, I've been to all the Korean festivals in the past, and they've always been very outstanding, and also the Vietnamese festivals. What I like is that you're here tonight asking to get approval from us before you plan something, and some people come here after the fact, and then it turns into a big mess. So thank you for coming so early. Although with everything you have to put together, I realize you got a lot to do before October, but it's nice that you came early, work with staff, get this figured out, and you'll have a very successful festival, I'm sure. So let's get to the vote.
Okay. Well, we have a motion. We have a second. I'll call for the vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes.
Congratulations. We will move on to 3B.
Item
Hold on,
three-
hold on one
Oh.
quick second. Just to note for minutes later, it marked Councilmember Bradingham as absent and not Mayor Jones. So make sure that's corrected for minutes.
Oh,
Yeah,
it says
yeah.
absent G. Bridingham.
Just so,
Oh, yeah.
so that we don't have to make that correction next meeting for minutes.
Yeah, maybe I'm invisible. I'm not here.
It's okay. Terry can just change it in the minutes.
It's a good
fine.
catch. Good catch, Kim.
Always.
Good catch.
I'll make a note of it verbally.
All right.
Because it's going to show up now every time. Okay.
All right. 3B.
Okay. Item 3B is consideration of a written request from the Honoring Our Fallen organization for approval of temporary closure of city streets for the Independence Day Freedom Parade on Saturday, July 1st, 2023. And again, Ms. Palaio is here to give that report.
Good evening again, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. As Terry just stated, staff is here to convey the written request from the Honoring Our Fallen organization, which is a Garden Grove-based nonprofit that would like to request City Council approval for street closures for an Independence Day Freedom Parade on Saturday, July 1st, 2023. Earlier this year, staff met with residents from the Eastgate Park neighborhood in Garden Grove regarding golf cart parade activities in the community. Staff explained that the community event and street closure permit process was something that needed to be considered in order for residents to submit a request for a permitted golf cart parade. Requirements included partnership with a local nonprofit organization in good standing, insurance coverage, street closure approval, and reimbursement for any direct costs for city support. Staff has confirmed that the Honoring Our Fallen organization is in good standing with both the IRS and with the Secretary of State office. The proposed parade route has been reviewed by the Police Department Traffic Division. Organizers anticipate approximately 150 golf carts participating in this year's parade. The Police Department staff and Public Works Streets Division will provide staff support for the closure of city streets during the event. Approval of the Independence Day Freedom Parade will not have an impact on the city's general fund. The organization will reimburse the city for direct costs associated with the support of the event. The estimated cost for staff support and equipment used is approximately $3,500 and is expected to be fully reimbursed. Staff is recommending that the City Council consider this request for the Independence Day Freedom Parade on Saturday, July 1st. This concludes staff's report, and staff as well as representatives from the organization are here and available to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions of staff? Any comments? I do have a comment regarding Honoring Our Fallen, probably one of the premier nonprofits servicing our the families of the service members who've died. They go all over the world, fly everywhere, bring the remains back, take care of the psychological and financial burden of the families. Probably one of Garden Grove's most premier nonprofits. I'm honored that they're based out of my district, and this is raising money for that organization and maintaining a tradition of golf cart parades in West Garden Grove that have been going on under the radar for a long time. Now they're doing it legit. So with that being said, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. We have a motion. We have a second. Call for the vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes with Mayor Jones absent and Mayor Pro Tem Bridingham voting in his place, in his
Thank you.
chair.
Okay, we are going to actually recess for 5 minutes, and we need council to step outside for a photo op at that point. So we'll take a 5-minute recess.
Member Dovin.
Present.
Member Klopfenstein.
Here.
Member Nguyen.
Here.
And Vice Chair O'Neill.
Here?
And Chair Jones is absent, so Vice Chair O'Neill, you're in the lead here.
Yes, thank you. We've already held oral communication simultaneously with council. We have consent items. Entertain a motion for that.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Yeah, that's for the minutes. I have a motion, a second. Please vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes.
All right. At this time, we do have a public hearing. I'll go ahead and let the clerk read that, and then we'll have a staff report.
This is item 3A on your agenda. It's adoption of a resolution approving the successor agency's biennial budget for fiscal year 2023-24 and fiscal year 24-25. And Alvaro is here to give that report.
Good evening once again, Chairman and board members. Before you for your consideration is the successor agency proposed fiscal year 23-25 budget. This budget is primarily funded by the Recognized Obligation Payment Schedule, or ROPS, which is approved annually in March by the DOF, with the sole intention of unwinding the activities of the former redevelopment agency. As such, we continue the efforts of implementing several disposition agreements and continue to pay down the outstanding agency debt. There is funding available in the fund balance for fiscal year 23-24, and as usual, we will also receive RPTTF funding for total revenues of $9.2 million that match the costs associated with the obligations and administration costs for the agency. For fiscal year 24-25, we're proposing a budget of $9.2 million. This proposed budget was estimated based on outstanding payment schedule of the ROPS, but will need to be amended next year to match what the DOF approves for 24-25. And once again, our recommendation is for the successor agency to adopt the budget resolution approving the biennial budget for fiscal year 23-24 and fiscal year 24-25. And with that, that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
All right. Thank you for that report. Before we go to the public hearing, is there any questions for staff? All right, seeing none, we'll open up a public hearing. Is there any speakers wishing to speak on this item? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion.
Move it.
A motion and a second, please vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes.
All right, thank you very much. Any matters from agency members? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and adjourn till the next meeting, Tuesday, June 27th. Thank you very much. I think we're going to go to sanitary. Is that correct?
Yep.
It looks like it, yes.
I guess I'm up again.
And you're
for
up
that.
again, yeah.
So thank you. I'll call the Garden Grove Sanitary District Board of Directors meeting to order. If the clerk could please call the roll.
Member Breitigam.
Here.
Member Dovin.
Present.
Member Klopfenstein.
Here.
Member Nguyen.
Here.
Vice President Tran.
Here.
President O'Neill.
Here.
And Member Jones is absent.
Thank you very much. We've already held oral communication simultaneously with council. We do have 4 public hearings tonight. We will be handling all of these individually. So we'll be given we'll read it, we'll have a staff report, same scenario, and then we'll have a public hearing and then a separate vote on each one. So at this time, we'll go to item 2A.
Item 2A is adoption of a resolution to collect refuse collection and disposal service charges on tax roll for properties located in Improvement District Number 1. And Ms. Song is here to give the report.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. President and members of the board. The item before you is a resolution calling for a public hearing to authorize refuse collection and disposal service charges for properties located within the Improvement District Number 1 to be collected on the county's property tax roll. Improvement District 1 was established in 1997 as part of the Orange County reorganization. As part of the reorg, the Garden Grove Sanitary District became a subsidiary of the city. The properties located in the district were formerly in Midway City Sanitary District, and the refuse collection and disposal service charges were historically placed on the property owner's annual property tax bill. Per request from those property owners, the district is continuing this collection method. In order to do this, the board must annually conduct a public hearing and approve a report detailing the charges proposed for each parcel. Once approved, this report will be submitted to the county assessor's office, and the corresponding charges will then be placed on the owner's property tax bill. The service charge for standard residential service includes 1 recycling bin, 1 green waste bin, which will also collect the food waste and organics, and 1 general trash bin. Monthly service charge will be $27.29, effective July 1st, 2023. Upon completion of the public hearing, we recommend the board to adopt a resolution and authorize the collection on the tax roll for disposal and refuse collection fees in Improvement District Number 1 by 5 affirmative votes, and direct staff to file the necessary documentation with the county for the collection of these fees and property tax bills. This concludes my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Any questions before we go to public hearing? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for anyone who wishes to speak on this specific item. Come on up, Mr. Dibbs.
Hi, I'm Nicholas Dibbs. I'm a homeowner in Garden Grove. I don't know where Improvement District Number 1 is.
That should be West Garden Grove area.
Okay, because I
I'm
don't.
not sure if you're specifically in that, but.
Yeah, I'm in West Garden Grove, so I don't recall receiving anything in the mail about this.
This is an annual event?
This is just to keep it on the way it was, where they keep putting it on the property tax. That's.
Oh, okay, it's the
Yeah,
existing.
you won't get notified for that. It's just to
Oh,
keep
it's not
doing what-
it's not an increase
It's
then?
not a.
No. This is an annual, if you're delinquent in your trash bill, basically, it will go on your taxes.
Okay, all right.
No,
So
this
it's
is,
not.
this
it's
is
not
not
a-
for delinquent, this is for the actual charges for refuse collection.
Oh, this is the charges. The district one is separate than the rest of the city.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
well,
sorry. Thank you very much.
Well, I just wanted, I didn't receive anything in the mail, so I'm
Okay.
assuming that this is not a fee increase?
No.
It is
Or
not.
requested fee increase?
It is not.
Omar, okay. So thank you. But,
Any other speakers? Okay. Seeing none, we'll close the public comment. Is there a report from the secretary?
Okay, so President O'Neill and board members, as of the close of the public hearing, the city clerk's office has received no protests, 0 protests regarding this assessment. Therefore, there is not a majority protest.
Thank you for that. Is there any member discussion or a motion? I have a motion and a second. Please call for the vote.
I'm sorry, who was the first?
George, I think, and Kim.
Motion received, 6 yes votes.
All right, now we'll go to item 2B.
Item 2B is adoption of a resolution to authorize the imposition of liens on parcels with delinquent payments for refuse collection and disposal service charges. And again, Ms. Song is here to give that report.
Thank you. Good evening again. This item is what President O'Neill just mentioned. This is about a trash lien that will be placed on the property tax bill for the owners who owe trash services for more than a certain amount of days. So the refuse collection and disposal service is provided by Republic Services. Republic bills customers quarterly on the last billing, and the last billing for fiscal year 22-23 was mailed out in February of 2023. All unpaid charges on that billing became delinquent as of May 1st, 2023. The State Health and Safety Code allows the delinquent amount plus 10% penalty to be filed with the county auditor controller, and upon recordation of the county, the delinquent amount becomes a lien on the property and can be collected along with the property taxes. The imposition of liens on properties requires proper noticing procedures and a public hearing. Prior to placing a lien against the property owners are notified multiple times. Staff followed directions from the board from the previous years and made sure that these communication or notification letters were mailed in multiple languages, including English, Korean, Spanish, and Vietnamese. Additionally, automated calls were enabled by Republic to inform property owners. Per city's request, Republic also designated representatives on residential accounts for Garden Grove customers to make live calls. To further ensure that all parties are aware of the potential lien, the public hearing notice was translated into multiple languages as well and published in local Korean, Spanish, and Vietnamese newspapers. Staff is carrying out our responsibility as outlined in our franchise agreement with Republic, which is to submit the delinquency information to the county once approved by the board. To comply with the state laws, we are here to conduct a public hearing and request for approval of the report detailing the delinquencies by parcel. Now, the report was generated, attached to the agenda report was generated by Republic on May 17th. And since then, 417 parcels had made payments as of yesterday, and they will be removed from the list when submitting to the county in early August. Upon completion of the public hearing, we recommend the board to adopt the resolution and authorize the collection on the tax roll of delinquent refuse disposal and collection charges by 5 affirmative votes, and direct staff to file the necessary documentation with the county for collection and the delinquent accounts on the property tax bills. This concludes my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I'll start with a question because I was thinking it's significant, what you said there. Anyone that, a significant amount of people paid their bill, and as long as they did that before August, it doesn't go on their
In
taxes,
early
right?
August,
Because
yeah.
that's the calls that we get is like, I don't want it on my taxes, but if you paid it up before August or even right now or July,
Yes.
you'll be fine.
Yes.
It won't go on your taxes. Okay.
That is correct.
Good to make that point. Any other questions? Go ahead, Mr. Dovin.
This is 2 questions rolled in one to kind of follow up. If you're talking about, say, August is a deadline to pay before it goes on your taxes, is there an implementation period, and will there be interest and penalties assessed if it goes beyond the allowed time?
There is a 10% penalty assessed on the delinquent accounts, and August 10th is the deadline for the city to submit the records to the county office. So we do require that the property owners pay prior to that, so that allows us time to submit the information correctly to the county.
Thank you.
More questions? Okay, seeing none. All right, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing on this particular item. I have a speaker. Come on up. If you could state your name, please.
Hello, my name's Brian Malley. I'm a homeowner and taxpayer in Garden Grove, homeowner for 18 years. I received this on May 17th, and it's on Republic Services things, but Ms. Pomeroy is the signatory, which I don't understand why a city is dunning their people for a private business's bills. It's silly. You know, I've never been late in 18 years, and this only was in Spanish. My wife's Vietnamese, so maybe she missed it, you know. I don't know, but for what reason would we be, our city, being a bill collector for a private business? Can any business get, if I write a contract, if I open a company here, will the city do that for me? That for any service? It just seems silly. The first time I met Ms. Pomeroy, she was kind enough. I was voting, and she took. I didn't even realize it was her lunchtime, and she was kind enough to answer numerous questions that I had. So, and I can imagine her workload, not including dunning the citizens for a private business's business. It seems like a silly thing to have in a contract. Why are we spending our resources to collect? Is there something advantageous to the city?
It's just a public comment portion. Yeah, we could get with you after.
Okay, thank you. I just seems silly, you know?
I understand.
And the one thing, I don't want to go over
ahead.
my time. On the same day, I received a bill from Republic Services, also under Public Services, stationary but not signed by Ms. Pomeroy, that stated, this was on the 17th, stated I would be past due on the 21st. So it just doesn't make sense. And the number one thing is, why are we, when we have people who are very busy and have much more serious things to do than be private collection for a private service? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. President, I think it's important for the public to understand that failure to pay your solid waste would entitle the hauler to stop collecting your solid waste. And if enough solid waste accumulates on private property, then you have a health and safety issues with, vermins, et cetera. So there is a public purpose, and that is to make sure that the hauler is continuously collecting. We do not allow the hauler to stop collecting when a property does not pay. In return, we provide this venue in order to make the contractor whole, basically.
And could you state, the city's been doing that for forever, as long as I know? At least
Yes.
30 years that I'm aware of.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Any other speakers? Mr. Dibbs.
Yes, I just want to point out, as a homeowner on the west end, we used to be under Midway City Sanitary District. And as far as I know, all the homeowners on West Garden Grove, our sanitary bill comes through the property tax. already. So we pay that. So there's no need to put a lien because it's already on the property tax rolls in the West End. On the central and east part of Garden Grove, you have a different billing system. The question I have, or thought for the council, is at some point, if it's not this year, would it be maybe next year, unifying this all so that it's uniform across the board? No. George shakes his head. So anyway, to make it more uniform across the city so that it's the same for everybody as far as the billing on the property tax. But anyway, that's all I can say about that. So keep up the good work. We do need, that Republic does a great job. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dibbs. Any other speakers? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing on.
The public hearing can be
Public
closed, but can I make a comment?
Yeah, I'm going to go to your
Okay.
comment right now. So we're going to close the public hearing, unless there's any other speakers. We're closing the public hearing. It's closed. Members from, members. Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you, President. I want to commend the resident who came in and spoke to this because I'm interested. Number one, the letter, as I understand it, should have gone out in multi-languages. So if you say you read Spanish, but your wife is Vietnamese, I would prefer such a letter to have several languages, and I've seen that before. So I'm a little bit curious why this time you only got us. Yeah, so I'm want to mention that to staff, if we can send out letters like that in multi-languages, that to do so, and not to separate letters in different languages. If we can incorporate it in one mail, that might be useful. Number two, I do understand what you call a silliness in the fact that the clerk is signing off on a letter which can cause misunderstanding. And I'm not satisfied with the answer that our attorney gave tonight. But I'm not going to put either one of you on the spot, but I want next time to hear a very clear explanation why it is that we sign off on such a letter. So if you can do a little bit of research, because I don't want our residents to be confused and take issues that we are acting as collectors for private service. So I want an explanation on that. Thank you.
Before I entertain any other comment, the Secretary, do you have a report on that item?
President O'Neill and board members, as of the close of the public hearing, the city clerk's office has received 0 protests regarding this assessment, and there is not a majority protest.
Thank you. That's procedure. Any other discussion? I'll entertain a motion. Have a motion to move it?
I'll second.
And a second. Please call for the vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes.
Thank you. At this time, we will go to item 2C.
Item 2C is adoption of a resolution to collect sewer service fees on tax roll for properties located outside the city limits. And again, Ms. Song is here to give that report.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. President and members of the board. This item, it's different from the previous two. This is the third item, relates to taxing. However, it's completely different from the first two. This has to do with the sewer assessment. And why we're assessing a sewer fee, because this property is served by the district, do not receive water services. As you know, the majority of our water accounts also receive the sewer services. So the bill is in one, has both water charges and sewer charges. For this particular item, for these properties, they are outside the city's jurisdiction. It's not within the city limits, and they do not receive water services from the city. So in order to effectively collect those sewer charges, we are utilizing the historical method of placing those service charges on the property tax bill, so the residents have a convenient way to pay for the services provided to them, and then the sewer system can also collect the amounts that's necessary to operate our sewer infrastructure or operations. So the sewer service fee were established by the board through ordinances number 7 and 10 in 2005 and 2012 respectively. The fees were calculated to provide funds necessary to maintain and operate the district sewer system, to cover debt service, and to maintain the services and stay compliant with the state laws. So the fees were established consistent among all residents and businesses receiving sewer services from the district, regardless of the location, within the city or outside the city limitation. The sewer service charge is calculated based on water consumption. Therefore, the amount varies by parcel. To place the service charge on the property tax bill, the county is requiring the district board to conduct a public hearing and approve a report detailing the service charges per parcel. Therefore, we are here tonight to conduct such public hearing, and once completed, we recommend the board to adopt the resolution and authorizing the collection of sewer service charges on tax roll by 5 affirmative votes, and direct the staff to file necessary documentation with the county for the collection of the fees. That concludes my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for the report. Any questions regarding this item? I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing on item 2C. Mr. Dibbs.
Nicholas Dibbs again. I just have a question, and maybe somebody can answer it later, but if it's outside the city limits and they're not receiving water service, I assume that there are parcels outside the city limits, but like Anaheim Island or something that would then connect somehow to the closest sewer line, which is in the city limits, and that's what my assumption is. If I'm wrong on that assumption, somebody hopefully will clarify that. So that's all. It's outside the city limits, so why, I'm assuming that the sewer lines from nearby areas that are outside the city limits have to connect to the city sewer line system. That's what I'm assuming. So it would be nice for staff to clarify that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Okay, we'll close the public hearing on this item. Any other, the Secretary has a report first. We'll go to that.
So President O'Neill and board members, as of the close of the public hearing, the city clerk's office has received 0 protests regarding this assessment. There is not a majority protest.
All right, any member discussion? Mr. Govin.
Just a quick question and then a follow-up. One is, have we sent a letter out like we did for item 2B on item 2C? And do we expect any pushback? I've heard we don't have any majority opposition to this point, but once we start implementation, do we expect any pushback?
I could probably answer that. I mean, these are annual events that most people are used to seeing either on their tax bill or their trash bill. It's the nature of the trash and sewer business. It's a dirty job, but it's, it's something we all deal with. We contract for the trash. Obviously, there's an administrative portion of that, which people are questioning about. The city contracts, and the hauler is required to do a lot of the administrative stuff on that. But that's the best I can answer for you at this point.
Okay, then I'm going to table it to see if there's any reactions to it, if people will complain and say, well, I didn't get notice, or if there's any pushback when it's actually implemented. I want to hear about it.
If I may, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council, just reviewing the staff report, it notes that the notification was made via a notice in the paper in multi-languages, but we can certainly come back and provide answers to the council once we clarify if notices were made. But just for point of clarification, notices were provided in the newspaper in multi-languages as well.
Thank you for that clarification. If there's no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Second it.
Second.
No one else.
Call for the vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes.
Thank you. Last item, 2D. We have a staff, if we could read that and have a report.
Item 2D is adoption of resolutions approving the Garden Grove Sanitary District's biennial budget for fiscal year 2023-24 and fiscal year 2024-25, and setting the fiscal year 2023-24 appropriations limit and reappropriate project balances and encumbrances from fiscal year 2022-23. And Ms. Song and Mr. Alvaro are here to, Mr. Castillon is here to give that report.
Good evening once again, members of the Sanitary Board. Before you now is the proposed fiscal year 23-25 budget for the Sanitary District. The Sanitary District operates 2 distinct programs. One is the maintenance of our sewer system, and the other one is the solid waste administration. The proposed budget will enable the district to continue planned sewer capital programs, including $10.7 million in 23-24 and $7.5 million in 24-25. We'll also continue sewer mainline inspections, continue with public education for fats, oils, and grease control to stay compliant with environmental regulations. And the district will also implement the mandatory organics and traditional recycling programs per SB 1383, which is the organic waste law. And as part of the budget, we are proposing an additional $400,000 in one-time funding to procure compost and mulch to be in compliance with SB 1383. And we will also continue to provide street sweeping and bus shelter trash cleanup. And lastly, we will continue to monitor the landfill. The sanitary district's two programs have different funding sources. On the left, you'll see the sewer funds, and on the right-hand side is the refuse fund. The sewer budget totals $22.5 million for fiscal year 23-24 and $19.5 million for 24-25. The budget is funded by operating revenues and a healthy working capital. For refuse operations, total budget is approximately $3.6 million in 23-24 and $3.1 million in 24-25. The decrease that you see in 24-25 is primarily due to the $400,000 in one-time funding that I just mentioned earlier. On the revenue side, we're projecting $3.4 million in 23-24 and $3.5 million in fiscal year 24-25. Staff's recommendation is for the board members to adopt a resolution approving the biennial budget for fiscal year 23-24 and 24-25, and adopt a resolution to set the appropriations limit for 23-24, and adopt a resolution to reappropriate project balances and encumbrances from fiscal year 22-23. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from members? Seeing none, we'll go
I
ahead.
do
Oh,
have
go
a
ahead.
question. I think I brought this up in agenda review, but I'm going to bring it up again, which is this budgetary burden of purchasing mulch. It came from a state bill. It's basically a mandate that we can't refuse. We're not, under voluntary compliance. It's mandatory. I also know that we haven't received any assistance from the state to offset this cost that the city is now having to bear. So I want the public to know, especially the Garden Grove residents, that I object to this an unfair burden on our budget from the state. And I've asked staff to try to look into funding from state or other levels of government to offset this one time. I know it's one time, but it's $400,000. That's a lot. And it's as a result of the state bill. So I want the residents to know this is not something that we accept easily and just say, yeah, we got this state bill and we have to comply. We're very publicly reporting to our residents that this is a burden passed on to the city from the state, and we have really no recourse other than to expend the one-time cost, which I'm going to vote on with a caveat that we're going to keep looking for federal and state sources to offset this one-time cost.
Thank you. Any other questions before we go to public hearing? Seeing none, we'll open up the public hearing on item 2D. Mr. Dibbs.
Nicholas Dibbs again, members of the Sanitary Board. First off, thank Councilman Joe Devin for bringing that up, that the state passes these mandates, but then they don't provide funding, which is a problem not only in the city government, but in our school district as well. So as a teacher, educator, science teacher, I'm concerned about that also, so thank you for bringing that up. I do want to mention something I did bring up at the last school board meeting, which relates to budgets. And that is, this is a biannual budget, but my question for the sanitary board and the staff is there an incentive for efficiency whereby if you don't use up all your budget money in the biannual budget, can it carry over to the next biannual budget? Because if there isn't, then what happens is then when you get to the end, people want to just spend money just to use it up, as opposed to conserving it. And well, if you can conserve it and pass it over to the next budget year, conserve those funds, then there's kind of instead of just people spending the money at the end just to use it up, because if they don't use it up, it's gone. So is it a use it or lose it, or can you, if you're able to save money along the way, can it be saved for the next year? So that's just a question I have, and maybe you folks can think about that. You would probably know the answer, and I don't. So anyway, I'm just asking the question.
Okay.
As a naive public member.
We talk a lot. We can talk after.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other speakers? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. We have a report from the secretary on this item also. Oh, we do not have a report on this item. My paperwork said it did. Is there any other member discussion on this item or a motion?
I'll make a motion.
A motion to approve. Do I have a second? I'll second. I have Joe has a second. Let's call for the vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes.
All right, thank you. Any other matters from members? Seeing none, thank you everyone for hanging tough with us through those 4 public hearings. It's a
Sanitary district
yeah,
meeting of the year.
it's a dirty job, but I enjoy it. If anybody has any questions too, you're always free to call staff or the council's off, or the city manager's office and get a hold of one of us, and we can explain a lot. There's a lot to this and a lot of money involved, a lot of procedure involved, a lot of contracts involved. We'll go ahead and adjourn this till the next meeting, June 27th. Back to council.
Okay, we will reconvene the Garden Grove City Council and move on to consent. If anyone want to pull anything, entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Let's call for the vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes.
All right. We will move to the public hearing. Huh?
Public hearings, more public hearings.
More public hearings. We love them tonight. We love them. 5A.
Item 5A is adoption of resolutions approving the biennial budget for fiscal year 2023-24 and fiscal year 2024-25. And again, Mr. Castellon and Ms. Song are here to give that report.
If I may, good evening, Honorable Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. Just wanted to provide some introductory remarks to our biennial budget, and then I'll turn it over to Patricia and Alvaro to present the comprehensive details of our budget. So I'm honored to present our biennial budget for fiscal year 23-24 and fiscal years 24-25. This budget not only reflects our commitment to be responsible financial management, but also embraces our shared vision for Garden Grove to be a safe, attractive, and economically vibrant city with an informed and involved public. We celebrate our diverse community and emphasizing our unique attributes while preserving our residential character. We have Finance Director Patricia Song and Budget Manager Alvaro Castellon that will be highlighting the further details of our budget. I'm proud to announce that our budget maintains structural balance, ensuring that the projected ongoing expenditures aligns with our projected revenue. The total all funds budget for fiscal year 23-24 is $381 million, while it's $373 million for fiscal year 24-25. The general fund operating budget amounts is $169 million for fiscal year 23-24 and $174 million for fiscal year 24-25. With the inclusion of some one-time supplemental requests, we are able to balance our 2-year budget by leveraging projected fiscal year 2022-23 surplus in the amount of $4 million. Above all, this budget demonstrates our dedication to the council priority areas, which is designed to uphold the city's guiding principles, enhance the well-being of our residents, improve the organizational efficiency, and benefits the community at large. These priorities include addressing homelessness, ensuring public safety, investing in our infrastructure, supporting economic development, strengthening our code enforcement, and celebrating the city's cultural diversity. Patricia and Alvaro will provide an in-depth overview of the biennial budget, focusing on budget priorities such as adding new positions to address council priorities, expanding funding for key city programs, reinvesting in our core infrastructure, implementing organizational restructuring to promote efficiency and succession planning in key leadership roles, to include the creation of 2 distinct departments, the Community Development Department and the Economic Development and Housing Departments. All of these endeavors have been accomplished while being mindful of maintaining reserves and strategically funding the city's comprehensive infrastructure policy. Lastly, I want to express my profound gratitude to the remarkable staff, especially with Patricia and Alvaro, for their unwavering dedication to preparing this budget. I also want to extend my appreciation to Amy Vo Janet Chung, Liz Cortez, Mina Yu, Victoria Chow in the Finance Department, and Anna Gold in IT and Graphics, as well as each of the department's budget coordinators for each of their contributions in preparing the budget material presented this evening. I'll hand it over to Patricia and Alvaro now to highlight the overview of our budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. City Manager, for the warm welcoming opening remarks. Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, good evening. Thank you and everyone in the audience to be here tonight while we share our proposed budget for the next 2 fiscal years. This year's budget process has been a very exciting and positive experience for us in the Finance Department. It has truly been a collaborative effort from all departments with the clear direction from the City Council. We were able to identify the resources available to us, incorporate valuable inputs from each department, and strategically fund for key functions and programs that will have a long-lasting impact to our community. I'd like to start off by sharing some of the highlights of the fiscal year 23 through 25 biannual budget. First of all, what we are presenting to you tonight is a balanced budget. A balanced budget ensures that revenues generated during the budget cycle are sufficient to cover the proposed expenses. I will introduce some of the key terminologies used in budget that will be, I will reference them throughout the presentation tonight. As you may recall, the city took some drastic measures during fiscal year 2020 in response to the pandemic. Vacant positions were eliminated and numerous programs were cut. In 2021, when the current 2-year budget were adopted, the city was just starting to recover from the pandemic. And with all of the uncertainties we were facing, we took a very conservative approach to slowly bring back a portion of the eliminated positions and provided some one-time funding for some of the programs. Following the significant labor and material shortage in 2022, the beginning of 2023 marked the highest inflation in recent history, pushing the cost of doing business to a historical high. City staff across all functions has been diligently managing their budget to keep expenses down with creative alternatives. However, it has been evident that without additional staffing and funding, some much-needed programs will not be able to continue. Therefore, the departments got together with Finance and the Budget Committee, working collaboratively together to identify the immediate needs for the next 2 years. As a result, a total of 17 full-time and 2 part-time positions were added over the next 2 years, and over $300,000 per year in increased funding is included for various key community programs. I will go into more details when we talk about the supplemental requests. Another highlight of this biannual budget is the implementation of the city's new capital asset renewal and replacement policy. This policy was adopted by the City Council last June, and to address the overall deficiency in funding for the upkeep of the city's various capital assets, buildings and facilities especially. Included in this biannual budget is a newly created internal service fund called Buildings and Facilities Fund, and this fund calls for a systematic collection of resources to pay for the needed maintenance and replacement. Last but not least, the proposed budget reflects a revised organizational structure. As Lisa mentioned earlier, the current Community and Economic Development Department will be separated into 2 distinct departments, and the Housing Department will be moved from the City Manager's office to the Economic Development and Housing Department. This allows better alignment of businesses and therefore promotes efficiency. Additionally, a deputy director position is created for each department to allow for succession planning. As you can see, substantial new investments were committed in the next 2 years. While we add those funding needs into our budget, we're also not losing focus on the growth limitation of our revenue base. The significant capital needs in the next few years for the development of our civic center, specifically the public safety building, and some of the other ongoing concerns, such as our pension obligation. Additionally, we are mindful with the overall economy, making sure that we have sufficient reserves to weather a potential mild recession. So before we dive into the budget, I'd like to go over some important terminologies related to the planning and development of the city's core budget, the general fund budget. The general fund is the chief operating fund of the city. Nearly 90% of the general fund revenue comes from taxes. This tax revenue is the cornerstone to fund for essential city services, including public safety, community services, public works, and economic development. A city's credit rating is largely dependent upon the fiscal health of its general fund. In 2019, the City Council adopted a general fund reserves policy, and every budget cycle since then, the appropriations are planned carefully following this policy and based on that year's revenue sources. You will be hearing us talking a lot about baseline budget. So what is a baseline budget? It is a budget reflecting the current operations with no additional funds allocated for new programs or increased service levels. In a year with high inflation such as this year, and some existing programs will be negatively impacted if we were to follow a baseline budget. The city has been operating on a baseline budget status for many years due to the revenue constraints. We passed our sales tax measure in 2018 and started collecting the 1 cent additional tax in April of 2019. However, just a few months later, the pandemic hit. Our hotel visitors tax suffered $18 million loss in one single year. It isn't until this current fiscal year that we anticipate our revenue can resume to normalcy. We believe now it's the right time to adjust our baseline so that programs can continue and deferred maintenance can stop. So there is a term called supplemental request. In the beginning of the budget cycle, we asked all of the departments to submit requests above their baseline to the extent to meet their operational goals. And we call them supplemental requests. They are prioritized by the requesting department based on their strategic plan and the council priorities. When the budget team evaluates these requests, we separate one-time from recurring items and determine if the existing revenue base is sufficient to cover the recurring costs. When ongoing costs are completely funded by current revenues, we say that we have a balanced budget. A balanced budget is the goal for the general fund, and it demonstrates fiscal stability. When ongoing costs exceeds current revenue, one-time money or fund balance will have to kick in to balance the budget. Our reserves policy set aside 2 months' worth of operating revenues as stability reserves. This protects certain amounts of fund balance from being tapped into by excess appropriation. The city has been very diligent in managing its general fund spending, and we are happy to report that we follow the same philosophy with the development of this budget. So this slide illustrates our budget development process. All started with the council priorities. The City Council conducted a workshop in March and identified 6 priorities. These priorities became the focal points for departments to evaluate and propose their budget requests. At the same time, the Finance Department established the baseline budget for each department. The goal is to match available resources with funding needs. When developing the baseline budget, we include all mandatory costs with necessary escalators, as well as the needs for various internal service funds. The final step is to include the supplemental requests. The budget team worked closely with each department to gain an in-depth understanding of each request and their impact to the department as well as organizationally. We also evaluate the funding availability, and the departments meet with the budget committee to go over this request, illustrate how they meet the council priorities, and how they can effectively deliver the services the community anticipates. So let me start with the first step in the budget process, council priorities. A total of 6 priorities were called for by the City Council at the conclusion of the March workshop. 4 priorities are considered Tier 1, which includes homelessness, public safety, economic development, and support for local businesses and infrastructure. Tier 2 priorities are code enforcement and celebrating Garden Grove's cultural diversity. All of these supplemental requests are aligned with one or more of these priorities. Some are fairly straightforward, such as adding a code enforcement officer. Others are weaved into existing programs with added funding, such as initiatives promoting cultural diversity. For the next fiscal year, the city will be participating in Hanson World Business Convention, for example, and in October, the Airran Festival will be hosted in the Garden Grove Park with approval of earlier action by the City Council. The Senior Center will also put on a week-long program to celebrate the International Week in January of 2024. And in February, the community will celebrate the Tet New Year together for the 2nd year. There are many other initiatives staff will be working on throughout the year to cherish our culturally diverse community and make Garden Grove a place that not only recognizes differences in cultures and backgrounds, but celebrate them. Now let's take a look at the second step we took in developing this budget, the general funds baseline. As shared earlier, the baseline refers to status quo budget. We start with collecting the estimated revenues for the next 2 years, focusing primarily on the big three: property tax, sales tax, including Measure O, and the hotel visitors tax. Our estimates were based on the historical data, market trend, and our revenue consultants' projections. Next, we populate our current budget information, adding only known cost increases such as labor, contractual, and certain mandatory items. No increase in staffing or services. The baseline analysis showed that we would have a surplus of $5.6 million in year 1 and $3.5 million in year 2. These amounts served as our foundation for considering supplemental requests, meaning that we can increase our spending up to such amount without going into a deficit situation. This definitely is a positive news. However, we are still mindful about rising fixed costs, including pension and labor, and we'll always want to compare it to our revenue growth to ensure a structurally balanced budget is also attainable in the near future. The slide here illustrates the revenue and expense trend in one graph, which clearly shows the cost growth is outpacing revenue. The gap between the operating revenues and outgoing costs, which represent the budget surplus, is narrowing year after year. Until the two lines cross, we will not have a structurally balanced budget. We also performed sensitivity analysis to ensure we allow ourselves certain buffer if revenue projection is off. In addition, underfunded status of several of our internal service funds is to be addressed before funding for new programs or initiatives. We have a total of 5 internal service funds. They serve the purpose of collecting funds over the years that are necessary to maintain future operations or replace large ticket items. For example, the fleet fund, it charges a fleet rental rate to all user departments based on replacement value. When the vehicle is due to be replaced, needed funds would have been collected throughout the years without causing a negative impact in the year of the replacement. The same idea applies to all other major assets, including building infrastructure. This budget cycle, we created a Buildings and Facilities Internal Service Fund with the goal to fund for scheduled repairs and preventative maintenance. $600,000 was programmed into the baseline to ensure its funding priority. The IT Internal Service Fund has been underfunded in the past decade, causing a backlog of computer equipment replacement. Including a $600,000 per year replacement cost into the fund's baseline will allow the IT equipment gets replaced or renewed in a timely manner. Workers' Compensation Fund ended with a $3 million deficit at the close of fiscal year 2022. When we delivered the audited financial statement to the City Council in February, the Council approved a one-time transfer from the general fund surplus to eliminate the deficit. The deficit was caused by 2 primary reasons. Number 1 is the under-collection of internal service charge over the years to help with balancing the general fund's budget. The second reason is the increased actuarial liability based on the claims and increase in legal, medical, and settlement costs. Included in the baseline budget, we have committed $2 million transfer for 2 years to bring the fund back into a healthy status. With all of that, we are ready to review the supplemental requests. A total of 13 million supplemental requests was incorporated into the next 2 years' general funds budget, among which nearly 9 million is considered ongoing commitment, and 4 million is one-time. The 9 million recurring costs are funded by current year's revenue, which was derived from the baseline scenario. Therefore, we consider our proposed budget structurally balanced for the next 2 years. The one-time funding needs are supported by anticipated current year general fund surplus. Now let's take a look of all the supplemental requests that's being included in this proposed budget. So again, the recommendation of these additional funding requests are based on how effectively they can meet the council established priorities. A total of $26,000 was invested in the ongoing effort for automation. $16,000 is for public works field staff and $10,000 for self-service kiosk at the City Hall lobby. The kiosk will be programmed with multiple languages, including Vietnamese, Spanish, and Korean. Included in the capital improvement plan budget for the next year is an $800,000 investment in citywide channel repairs. The Public Works Department conducted a condition assessment of various channels owned by the city and identified major repair needs. Timely addressing the issue will prevent further deterioration of the channel and reduce risk factors. Another $450,000 was for certain landscaping projects as stipulated by a development agreement. As mentioned earlier, in response to the community needs and council direction, this proposed budget has increased funding for several community programs, including the Garden Grove Teen Action Collaborative Program, the Garden Grove Gems, the Police Explorer Program, as well as improvement to the holiday lighting infrastructure, which is used in one of the city's signature events, Winter in the Grove. In an effort to ensure the city's revenue base is protected, included in the proposed budget is funding for cost recovery and revenue audit services. We piloted these services in the current fiscal year and had seen much success. These initiatives will be continued into the future years. With the expansion of the police workforce, additional equipment needs are necessary. In the proposed budget, we have slated over $155,000 for police equipment acquisition and replacement. Park vandalism has become a very costly issue for the city in recent years. The proposed budget is allocating over $10,000 to have security cameras installed at the city parks. An additional $100,000 is designated for Main Street electric box maintenance, which was previously funded by one-time grant money. As highlighted in the beginning of this presentation, in this budget cycle, we have added 14 new full-time positions and converted 3 part-time positions into full-time, with a total of 17 new full-time positions. 5 positions were for Community Development Department in response to the community needs for speeding building inspections, enhanced code enforcement, and quicker turnaround on plan checks. A total of 2 building inspectors are added, 1 in each fiscal year, and an additional code enforcement officer and planning aide is also funded to meet the department's operational goals. In the Economic Development and Housing Department, a total of 3 positions are added, 1 of which is designated for the housing. In IT, we have added a senior cybersecurity analyst position in the 2nd year to address the ever-increasing cybersecurity issue all municipalities are currently facing. For the police department, due to the success of our joint program with the Garden Grove Unified School District, we're adding another school resource officer to the program. GGUSD will be reimbursing 100% of related personnel costs, and the city is responsible for the vehicle, equipment, and other related costs. With this addition, there will be a total of 6 school resource officers. We are also adding a public safety dispatcher position next year in anticipation of future retirement and to ensure continuity of this critical function without being interrupted. Public Works will bring on 5 additional positions across all of their operations. An animal control officer will be added to enable a 24/7, 365 operation. A maintenance repair worker is needed to launch the new building inspection and preventative maintenance program. 2 street maintenance worker positions will be added, 1 in each fiscal year, to carry out much-needed street, tree, and flood control channel maintenance work throughout the city. Additionally, a part-time parking control specialist position will be converted to a full-time to carry out more responsibilities. With all of the new positions, of course, HR will need the help, so we are proposing to upgrade the part-time clerical assistant position to full-time for the Human Resources Department. With the addition of 2 part-time Public Works trainee positions, a total of $2.8 million in personnel costs is added to the baseline for the next 2 years. A detailed listing of these additional positions is included in a separate handout. Okay, I think we're ready to take a look at the general fund's proposed budget for the next 2 years. Total projected revenue for fiscal year 24 is $167 million, and a total recurring cost $166. For year 2, total revenue is estimated to be $172 million, while total recurring costs are $173 million. So total operating revenue for year 1 is sufficient to cover that year's recurring cost, and the estimated excess revenue over recurring costs from year 1 would be carried over to cover the shortage for year 2. And looking at both years, we are able to have a structurally balanced budget. As mentioned earlier, for the one-time cost totaling $4.3 million, we will be using projected surplus from the current fiscal year to fund for it. Again, the math is simple here, but I just want to assure you that staff had performed much analysis to bring a balanced budget forward, taking consideration of market condition, revenue and cost fluctuation, and margins of error on assumptions. We feel confident that the scenario presented to you tonight are conservative and allow ourselves the ability to adjust our spending plan under unforeseen circumstances. So, to ensure the fiscal health of the city, again, it is important for us to evaluate whether we can achieve structurally balanced budget when formulating our spending plan. This diagram here provides a more straightforward view on how we determine if a budget is structurally balanced. As mentioned earlier, we anticipate revenue will exceed recurring expenses in year one, and the excess is sufficient to cover the slight shortage between year two's revenue and recurring expenses of $1.4 million. As we've done in the past, we will make adjustments during mid-cycle review and bring a proposed amended budget for year two to you next June. So this is the proposed general fund budget by category. As shown on the pie chart, public safety expenditure continue to occupy nearly 70% of the entire general fund's budget. Public works takes about 13%, community development, economic development, and community services each take about 4%. City administration includes city manager's office, city attorney, finance, IT, and HR. Combined is about 7%. And there's about 1% for capital projects and debt service. Next, I will ask our finance manager, Alvaro Castellan, to present the proposed budget for all of the other funds.
Good evening once again, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the City Council. The table here on this slide excuse me, outlines our operating budget for fiscal year 23-24. We manage close to 100 different funds, all with different restrictions and limitations, and we've categorized them on this table. There are a total of 7 different fund categories on this table, but I think the underlying theme during this budget process was to maximize all of our resources and invest it right back into our community and our infrastructure, and you see that in every single fund category on this table. Excuse me. And going down to the last line here, we're projecting total revenues for all funds at $321.9 million, total citywide expenses at $381.7 million, and the use of $56.7 million in fund balance for all funds. For fiscal year 24-25, we're projecting revenues for all funds at $338.2, expenditures for all funds at $373.1, and the use of $33.7 million in fund balance for all funds. Switching gears a little bit over to our 5-year capital improvement plan, we are proposing a 5-year CIP of about $170 million over the next 5 years. But what I really want to highlight from this table is that the vast majority of the proposed projects are planned for the next 2 fiscal years. We're planning to invest close to $100 million in CIP projects over the next 2 fiscal years alone. On this slide, you'll see the amounts allocated for each fiscal year by CIP category. The reason why there are decreases in the second year compared to the first is because we will be exhausting some of our one-time sources in 23-24, and therefore leaving less funding available for CIP projects for the second year. Nevertheless, we're still proposing an additional $30 million in CIP projects for 24-25. And the previous slides highlighted the funding for the CIP, and here we'd like to highlight some of the projects that will take place in 23-25. Under streets, we will continue with our arterial street rehabilitation. We'll continue with the concrete replacement program, and we're also making improvements to our flood control channel. Under traffic signal, we're planning traffic signal upgrades at 10 different intersections throughout the city. Over in our park improvements in the CIP, we're planning several park improvements at Magnolia and at the Eastgate Teen Center. We're also continuing with the Woodbury Park expansion and planning some playground equipment upgrades at Atlantis Play Center. Under facility improvements, we're planning the bike corridor improvement project, which will provide us with 15 miles of new bike lanes. We're also proposing the rehabilitation of the Purcell building and the navigation center as well. And for water and sewer, we're planning several water improvement projects and sewer main replacements for the next couple of years. For the community services user fees updates, one of the things that we're trying to achieve within the next couple of years is to look at our current fees across the city and make adjustments to achieve full cost recovery whenever feasible, with the intention of achieving cost recovery without it becoming a burden for our residents. The community services staff had started to look at their fees earlier in the year and did a wonderful job in proposing a restructuring of their fees to achieve full cost recovery and to standardize how they assess their fees. The current fee structure for some fees has not been updated in over 10 years. So since the last review, all wages have significantly increased over the past decade. And just to put it into perspective, 10 years ago, the minimum wage was about $8 an hour, and today's minimum wage is $15.50 an hour. It has almost doubled since then. So what are we proposing? Well, we're proposing to standardize all classifications to be consistent across all sections of the schedule. This ensures that all facilities and rentals operate under the same set of regulations and fee structure. And we are proposing some fee increases. These were based on two major factors. The first was actual costs for providing the program, including labor costs, contractors, materials, and supplies. And the second factor was a survey of multiple cities in Orange County that are comparable to Garden Grove. Our goal was to be somewhere in the middle to lower middle range of the compared cities. So we are proposing some increases in fees for Atlantis Park for private rentals and after-hour rentals only. No increase in daily admission or table rentals. For facility reservations, for building rentals and showmobile only. Picnic shelters will not increase. We're also proposing increases for park reservations, the CMC, sports fields, and sports and recreation center. The proposed fee increases will help in getting us closer to 100% cost recovery for these services. And with that, that concludes my part of the presentation, and I will turn it back over to Patricia.
Thank you, Alvaro. So, can you turn to the next slide, please? Yeah. Here is a very quick recap of our proposed biennial budget. Citywide, we are proposing a spending plan of $382 million for year one and $373 million for year two. Our total authorized full-time position will increase from the current 555 to 569 in fiscal year 24 and 572 in fiscal year 25. For capital projects, we are proposing a $68 million new funding for year one and $30 million in new money for year two. And again, we are proposing a total of $13 million in additional funding for increased staffing, programs, and service levels to be funded by the general fund for the next 2 years. We are recommending that the City Council adopt 5 resolutions and approve a list of overnight travel and conferences related to the fiscal year 23-24 and 24-25 proposed budget. The resolutions will approve appropriations for those years, set spending limits, amend certain user fees, appropriate fund balances, and reappropriate remaining project balances and encumbrances from the current year. That concludes our presentation. We're here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Back on. Are there any questions of staff?
That was exciting.
Very good. I know we all received this
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago, and we had a closed session.
Yeah,
so
we're very well versed
We're
in-
very well versed in this, so I guess we'll open up the public hearing. And is there anybody in the audience wishing to speak on this? I see 2. Let's call up Mr. Sisk. Leland Sisk, come on up. You get to go first because you have the most colorful shirt.
Thank you. I would turn it on, but it's too late in the evening. I have one quick question that relates to streets and the sewers. I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but an El Nino has formed. And if you check the appropriate weather sites, the ENSO, and also my personal prediction is from about the end of this November through till about April of next year, we're going to have significantly more rain than we had this year. So I hope you take that in consideration when you're doing the sewers and the maintenance. It's going to be wet, folks. Just count on it. So look it up. El Nino has formed, and it's going to be pretty strong. All right? Just so you know.
Good advice. Okay, did Nick, you're Mr. Go ahead.
council members. My name is Brian Malley, and I just had on the budget one observation. That's that I don't understand why the paramedic tech's override is not shown and carried as a separate fund. You know, in the resolution, 1674 from 1974 says that it would be used only for this. About the Great Recession, 2009, 2010, the city started raising millions of dollars more than the actual budget for the paramedic. If you look, I've gone through since 1974 up to current, and you know, it got to the point in 2016 we're raising double digit, raising $5 or $6 million more a year than the actual budget was shown in the budget, but there's never a carryover. And so I'm just curious why that is not done. You know, there was kind of a sophomoric thing that was done by the temporary fire chief right when Mr. Stiles became that, showing that 60% of all of our costs were emergency service. They basically took the whole thing, said we got 11,000 calls, you divide this in, 60% goes to here. But the budget had shown, until they stopped showing an actual budget about 2016, that you know, the actual cost was much less than that was being raised, and I've never seen that accounted for. You know, some years it was 5-6 million. You know, we were raising 12, 13, 14 million, and the published budget for the paramedic was, you know, 6 million, 4 million. So anyway, I don't know the answer to that, and because I don't think it should be washed through the general fund, even though it is a general fund tax. I always thought the way I read it, and I'm not a lawyer, was that it was a separate fund that should be tracked and go to provide those services that resolution passed in our grandparents passed. So anyway, that's just my inquiry, why it's not tracked, it's separate and shown in and out for the purpose that it was raised for.
Thank you. It's your turn.
Members of the council, staff, citizens of Garden Grove, my name is Nicholas Dibbs. There's only 3 of us here tonight giving public comment to this hearing. We live in a city of over 170,000 people. So this, you know, you need to improve the civic engagement process, like I've said, and allow people to call in who can't be here in person, number 1. Number 2, the staff asked the council for questions. Now, Mr. Malley raised some issues. I'm going to raise some questions. It wouldn't hurt after we're done to have somebody weigh in and answer it for the public's interest. It's not a dialogue, it's just commenting maybe on what we've been commenting on. I want to comment on the tree budget. You only have for tree maintenance $100,000. Now, does that include, that's just maintenance? What about adding more trees, because we're in a tree deficit? Anybody looking at the numbers, we're at 1% for, as I put in the email in my general public comment from Mr. Durfee's feedback, is we don't have enough trees. We're at 1% of Garden Grove is in green space. We're way below what other cities are at. So is there money somewhere else, or is that the whole thing? Is that going to include any new additional trees or not, number 1, or is it coming out of another part of the budget? So we need more trees in this city. We have a tree deficit. You only have 7,000 for Garden Grove Teen Action Program, which is not very much. I do think we need to engage our youth more and provide mentoring and intern programs, and also Youth and Government Day, which hopefully George will finally get around to backing, and a youth wellness advisory group or something. But the staff has done an excellent job of putting this together. From the layperson's point of view, it's hard to follow as far as we don't know all the ins and outs. I will ask the same question I asked before on the hearing for the sanitary thing, which is, is there some way of carrying over funds if you don't use them all? Will they carry over to the next biannual budget? Rather than having a situation where city staff and the council feel pressured at the end to use up all the money. I don't know if we ever get in that position, or we're always underfunded anyway. So if there is money left over, can it be carried over as a surplus so that there's an incentive for a department? Okay, we didn't use it all this year, so we get to carry it over to the next biannual budget. If you could maybe address some of these things, after I sit down, that would be nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Seeing none, we will close the oral communications and bring it back to the council. Any questions, comments, concerns, motions?
I have comments.
Councilman DeWitt.
I'm going to save some of what I'm going to say till the very end when we go around the horn. So not everything is going to be said right now, but I'm going to focus on the budget because I am very, very happy that we have a balanced budget for the next 2 years. So off the bat, I want to thank staff, as we always do. Their work has really carried this city, especially coming out of COVID. This is not easy. You see how many cities have gone under. They're in deficit. We're not. So even though I did raise some concern that we have a shrinking budget, we're not going under. We don't have a deficit, even if you factor for any errors. So I'm satisfied with that, and of course we can always go into finer details, but we did in our budget workshop. Like George mentioned not so long ago, just about 10 days ago, we sat through about 3 hours, and I'm also very happy with the supplemental requests that are getting filled, especially with personnel. And I know personally we have a lot of shortages in personnel, especially in building, planning, and so on. Right now, if you're trying to book a inspection, you're going to wait 10 days, 2 weeks or more. We want to bring that down to about 3 days or 5 days at the most, and we can't do that without hiring. So what I raised was sustainability, because once you hire, you don't want to fire. And we have it in our budget to hire and retain certain positions, 14 of them, which is a great news I want to share with the city. We should be celebrating that we have the budget to hire new people and to spend on very needed infrastructure like the channels, improvement in the channels, which is not an option, because if anything happens to those channels, they break and flood, we are going to be in a world of hurt. We're going to be out of many, many more millions than you care to believe. So these are budgetary issues that are being addressed. And if you look at the budget, and we looked at the very same slides that you saw tonight, all 27 of them, and they are very diligently reflect the council's guidelines, including public safety and homelessness. Today we celebrated the groundbreaking of Navigation Center. So our priorities are getting addressed in a very, very concrete and direct ways. Our parks are getting improved. Our streets, we name the streets that are being improved, every single one of them in all the different districts. So yeah, there's a downside that we're not sure if this budget will last into the next 5 years, but at least the next 2 years, we're going to get what we paid for in terms of being able to collect the revenues in the general fund and expend in a sustainable way. And so believe me when I say that we have been very diligent in going over in a fine-tooth comb every number, and I asked a lot of questions of the directors, the departmental heads, and the staff at the last budget workshop. So that's why I don't have questions for them today, because it's all been answered as far as I'm concerned. But I do want to say that I like that we need more trees, and I want that in the supplemental request. So please address that. If we can find a budget to plant trees, let's do it. I'm all for trees, okay? So that's a good point. And the other questions that were raised, answer them. If you have the answer now, give the answers, or come back with the answers for us, because I see everything, all the points that were raised tonight, very, very valid. very valid. Thank you all.
Any more comments?
Yes, just really quick. We did talk about this when we review with the council and the staff the other day. But I just want to say a quick thing is that thanks to the staff for putting the report together. It was very clear and concise. And for a new council member, I was able to follow. And when you look at it, you just see appreciate so much for our staff. They actually spending very conservative. So when you look at it, you just make you feel very confident about our staff and where we are and where we're going. So thank you so much. That's it for me.
Councilwoman Nguyen. Sorry.
Just two comments. One, thank you to staff for all the work that you put into this, to all the directors that provided their items and helped support Patricia's team in creating the budget for us. And then my second comment is thank you for the edits to the handouts. I appreciate that. They look great. Thank you.
Not sure I'm really adding anything new. I just kind of to nutshell a little bit. It feels good to be approving a structurally balanced budget. We have strong post-COVID recovery in our tourism visitors tax, which is really important. Creating some much-needed positions, code enforcement, animal care mean a lot to me. And just pinpointed and targeted council priorities that we're seeing play out and really being pinpointed in the direction that we've chosen. That's homelessness, public safety, economic development, our business community, and so forth. And it's nice to see those things being executed. So to Patricia and your team, thank you so much for this presentation, for I think pinpointing and just laying this out in a way that is quite refreshing. We can understand it, digest it easily. I know how much work and time and effort goes into this, so thank you very much for all of your hard work.
I just thank you for that. I like your comment. It's simple math, simple math. $600 million or so.
Not so simple.
Not so simple, but a balanced budget, tremendous. What I like and I saw in the pie is over the last 4 years or so, obviously our budget is growing and it will continue to grow. But the public safety aspect, which is the main purpose of the city function, we've done more in the community and other stuff in our budget percentage-wise, and our public safety has actually gone down a little bit, even though we're spending more money, but we're able to use that money in other areas to do things in the community. So that's one thing I really like. But thank you for this. It's our second presentation of this in public. So looking forward to passing this 2-year budget. Thank you so much for all the hard work.
Yeah, I'd like to chime in. For the first time since I've been on this council, infrastructure raised into a tier 1 category for our council priorities. I'm really grateful for the rest of the council to go that way. Some of our streets are in really bad shape. Those flood control channels, I mean, we had some experience about 20 years ago on the west side with one of those collapsing and flooding out a bunch of homes, and it was ugly. So we don't want a repeat of that. So we'll get those flood control channels taken care of. The streets, the alleys, the bridges. It's nice that they're going to get some love. So I'm real happy with that. I also want to thank Patricia Song and her team. Did an outstanding job as usual on this report. We were able to digest it pretty easy, and thank you very much for that. And with that being said, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move it.
I have a motion. I have a second. Let's call for the vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes.
Oh, they got me fixed now. Good. Okay. Oh. We are going to move on to 6A, and I am going to pull that until next meeting if we can, so Mayor Jones can make his appointments. Do I need to move that, or can we just pull it?
No, it's just continue. to
Okay,
next
we'll
meeting.
continue 6A. Item 7A.
Item 7A is introduction and first reading of an ordinance to adopt the paramedic tax override rate for fiscal year 2023-24. And this ordinance is entitled An Ordinance of the City Council, the City of Garden Grove, establishing the amount of money for paramedic services that must be raised by an ad valorem tax override and the setting of the tax rate of said override. And Ms. Song will be providing that report.
Can Can you say that 10 times real fast, though?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Good evening again. I promise this is my last item tonight. So this item before you is an ordinance authorizing a tax override for 8 cents per $100 of assessed valuation of taxable properties within the city of Garden Grove. This is an ad valorem tax. It was originally approved by our voters in 1974. The tax is designated to help fund the ongoing costs of paramedic services provided to the community. In 1974, ballot measure set a limit to this tax at 10 cents per $100 assessed valuation, and the proposed rate for the upcoming fiscal year is 8 cents, and it has been the same since 2017. So the paramedic tax levy is necessary to fund for the paramedic services, which is currently provided by the Orange County Fire Authority. We estimate that the paramedic tax revenue for fiscal year 23-24 will be about $14.9 million. To levy this tax, government code requires the city council to set the levy annually by ordinance or resolution. This is why we're here tonight to ask the city council to introduce and conduct the first reading of the ordinance, and it's titled Establishing the Amount of Money for Paramedic Services That Must Be Raised by an Ad Valorem Tax Override and the Setting of the Tax Rate of Said Override. This concludes my report, and I will answer any questions that you have.
Do we have any questions of staff? Okay, seeing none, we will open up the public hearing.
No.
No, wait, I'm sorry. This is not a public.
We had so many public hearings.
I know, I'm just getting used to that.
I'll just make a comment and then I'll make a motion. So the rate hasn't changed since 2017. It was a ballot measure back in the day. It pays for those services. I'll move to approve it.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Let's call for the vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes.
Moving on, 7B.
Item 7B is award a contract to RJ Noble Company to provide material, equipment, and labor for residential streets rehabilitation 2023. City project number CP 136-2023, and Mr. Murray is here to give that report.
Thank you, Ms. Pomeroy, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the council. Tonight, City Council is being asked to award a contract to RJ Noble Company to rehabilitate residential streets bounded by Orangewood to the north, Chapman to the south, Magnolia to the west, and Gilbert to the east. There is a map attached to your staff report for your reference. In general, the rehabilitation work will include, but not be limited to, cold milling of the existing pavement and replacement with an AC overlay, slurry sealing, restoration of traffic signing, striping, and other pavement markers, and the reestablishment of the centerline ties and monuments. All this work is to be completed at a cost of a little over $1.2 million. Staff received and opened 4 qualified bids on May 17th of this year, and staff found that RJ Noble to be the lowest qualified bidder. Should council decide to award the contract tonight, the contractor can begin work in July and should be complete by Halloween. This project was included in this year's capital improvement plan and will be paid for with community development block grants and gas tax. This concludes staff's report, and I'm available should you have any questions.
Do we have any questions? I think this is your district,
Yeah,
right,
no
John? You
question.
probably wanna.
Yeah, no questions, but you're going to have some very happy folks in that block because a lot of those areas need some love. So thank you, Bill, for that, and looking forward to getting that done before Halloween. And I'll move to approve it.
I have a motion. Any,
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Call for the vote.
Motion received, 6 yes votes.
Okay. And we are now into matters. This is great. So we have an update on the Civic Center revitalization project.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. We have our consultant for PFAL, Ms. Caroline Judy, and our interim Community and Economic Development Director, Craig back to provide an update to the council on the status of our Civic Center revitalization project, which is our P3 project for our public safety building.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Happy to be before you tonight to provide you with this update. The short part of the presentation is that we're on track, and we're looking forward to getting a RFQ released to the development community for this new project. Caroline is here. She has been working diligently to put together a number of specification documents that will be included in that RFQ, and she's going to go through this presentation for you this evening, and will be available to answer any questions once she does it. Caroline.
Thank you very much, Council. Good evening. Nice to see everyone again. I know it's been a long meeting. You've had budget, so we're going to try to get through this quickly and get to your questions if you have them. So a lot of work has been going on the project. Just to remind you, we are currently in phase 2 of the project. Although it says you are here, we're actually towards the end of the phase 2 you are here and heading towards phase 3. A quick recap of our phase 1. We met with your council and we did community outreach to talk about some of the goals and objectives for the project. We looked at the Dewberry's report. We updated the program and validated the program. We, based on that program evaluation, looked at the locations within the Civic Center, looking for the most optimal location for the new facility, the park, and the parking structure. From there, we looked at site massing, the relative heights, compared that to other buildings in the surrounding area. We ran a preliminary cost estimate, and then based on your direction at our last briefing, we have been looking at the design, build, finance delivery method. So that was our phase 1. We brought forward some concepts on visioning, trying to address some of the things that we heard both from your council, the community, and from public safety about wanting to see more transparency, more welcoming, open to the public type of structure, more interior daylight and views, looking at exterior spaces for not just the community to gather, but for staff to have reflective spaces for the public safety staff, and then ways of sort of softening the building exteriors, the parking structure, et cetera, using cladding and some creative methods with lighting as is shown in this picture. Again, on visioning, just some concepts that again echo that the safety concerns, security concerns, but also creating a welcoming environment to the public. Our current status, and this is where we are right now, a lot of work has gone on. The CEQA process has started, program evaluation or program definition underway with the project description, and we'll be moving forward with a schedule with that coming out soon, the community engagement that's associated with getting through the CEQA process. We did a fairly extensive request for information out to the market and had 11 responses from very large and well-placed firms. A lot of interest in this project. We've summarized that response information and provided it to you. We are spending a lot of time right now working on the request for qualifications and the performance specifications associated with that RFQ. And then our next phase here is looking at the evaluation criteria of the RFQ. We are continuing to work with Lisa and her team, the city manager and her team, on the financing for the overall project. And then community engagement never stops. It's something that we do continuously and are very committed to. You have a great website. There's a number of events that are coming up, and we're continuing to work on that. So, as I mentioned, community outreach, here are some of the summer events where we will have staff will be present and they're gathering input from the public about the new facility and capturing all of that, and that information is all being put onto the website. So for CEQA, we have, as I mentioned, got the project description, the project CEQA is underway, the tribes have been noticed, and the technical studies on various aspects that are needed for CEQA are in process. I want to spend just a little bit of time on the request for information and the market sounding. The most salient thing that we received was there's a lot of interest in this project. You have a number of firms. As I mentioned, there were 11 that responded. They're all actively engaged and watching what's going on. And so that's a good indicator that we will get competitive pricing, which is what we are striving for as we go to the RFQ. We spend a lot of time trying to understand and hear from the firms about how they maintain cost control. And one of the principles that we are bringing to the project with our team is an open book process where every step of the way we are looking at their costs. So through the design and construction process, we are looking at their costs and we're evaluating them against market prices on a line-by-line basis. So that's really important, and all of the firms that we spoke with were committed to that open book process. So that's a really important thing to make sure that we are getting value for the taxpayers. And I won't hit on all of those, but those were a couple of the things that I wanted to stress in this slide. So as I mentioned, we have, as part of our team, we have HOK, which is our architectural advisor, Altus, which is assisting us with some of the performance elements, and then we have DARM Consulting. And DARM is our cost estimating expert. They do over 300 projects a year throughout the U.S. and nationally. Internationally, and so they are the ones who are really going to be with us side by side through the process that we're embarking on now, once we get bids in, and then as we move through the exclusive negotiation process and into design documents and construction documents, they will be challenging the cost estimates that are coming from the awarded developer. We get that point. Currently, there's a lot of work going on. A lot of it's very focused on the documents that we're putting together for the request for qualifications, the performance specifications, fairly detailed. Then the exclusive negotiating agreement, we're working on that with our outside counsel and with the city attorney. And then also the development agreement, which will be the key document really defining how the project gets done. So as I mentioned, performance specifications, it's a pretty detailed document describing things, everything from airflow to security to entrances and stairwells and elevators and all of the specifications that we expect so that we can hold the developer and both communicate to the developer what are the city's expectations for the performance of the building, not just the building, but the parking structure and the park. So that's all included in that performance specification. Very outcome focused. So as I mentioned, here we are finishing up really phase 2 and moving into close to the launch of the RFQ, which we anticipate in August, and moving on from there. So your questions. Thank you.
Any questions? Councilwoman?
Thank you very much. Just a few comments. I know it's really early in this part and we're not quite at that phase, but I'd like to mention it now so it's something we're thinking about as we go through the RFP and make our selections. I'd like to just maybe throw out that we should be giving extra brownie points for folks who can make considerations for special accommodations for our wonderful canines. So some dog-friendly spaces in the PD building, and then also making sure that we take into consideration the different types of employees that we have. And so I'd like for us to not lose sight of like lactation rooms, for instance. I know we have young women that are officers and that work in various departments. So making sure that we create spaces when and where they're going to need them. So just wanted to flag that. Thank you.
Thank you.
To Councilmember Kim Nguyen's point, the lactation rooms, I appreciated how a lot of them were close or in or nearby the women's locker rooms. And I found that to be helpful and just more supportive and just a safer, maybe less stressful space to do that. And also the care for young children as well that maybe are waiting, or just those spaces, those safe spaces for young children and families. That was also, I thought, meaningful in the tours that we've taken recently. In the presentation tonight, obviously outreach and education is near and dear to my heart, and I appreciate the fact that it looks like you have a robust schedule here of concerts and movies and different community events. In looking at these journal entry stickers, I know for someone like myself who's lived in and around the Civic Center Park pretty much all my life, I didn't really go too far. And so that park not only has memories for myself as a child, but also with my daughter. And so those memories are just weaved into sort of the fabric of my life. And I know that for those that live in and around this area, they are for them as well. So to have a sticker that says my best memories of this park, and to be able to really capture that heart and soul of what people are feeling and what that area meant to them, to then be able to take that into this build and just kind of memorialize those feelings, I think is really important. So I appreciate the sensitivity to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the report. I'm really satisfied with the production so far. We're very early, but I am really satisfied with the tempo and how we're pushing forward, and the community engagement and looking at other facilities that have been built recently, making sure that we do it right, because we got one shot, for the next 50 years probably, and just make sure it has a little extra space for future and to accommodate all the people that are going to work in that building and visit that building. Really excited about it, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll be brief. First off, I hear good news that we're on track.
We are on track.
So that's cause to celebrate right there. And we're in phase 2 and getting ready to move to phase 3. So we're good as for the timeline and the budget. There's no cause for concern. We're within budget, and we're being very conservative, and I'm really watching that we don't have cost overruns that we didn't anticipate. So that's good news that we're within everything that we've laid out in our vision. Council and our Mayor Pro Tem has already expressed their different weighing in on the design and what features would help not just the staff there, but the public that's going to be accessing those buildings. And I want to tour with our city manager some buildings, especially the Orange County Supervisor building, which I mentioned to Lisa, that it's PFAL that also was the consultant on that. And then I've been inside that building. It's really something to be had. So I really want that here, if we can incorporate some of those design features. And I love public spaces for public art. So we're gonna have memorials on site. We're gonna have public art, and that's what I'm big on. So I want to reiterate that, and see you in a couple of months, and we'll get more update, and hopefully we'll have more good news. Thank you.
Thank you.
Will be really quick. So Councilmember Stephanie already mentioned about the upcoming city event. And my message to the resident is that this project is something that's going to be big for our city and going to be iconic. It's going to be there for many years. And so for residents that want to get more information, this is the places where they could learn more, right? At the concert in the park, movie in the park, and you will have the booth for the community to learn more. So I just want to pass a message to our residents and ask them to come and join and talk to our at the booth and get more information. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I, again, appreciate all the work you guys are putting into making this happen in our lifetime. I know it's been many moons that this has been envisioned and talked about, discussed, and then we started moving forward, and then COVID hit, and so anyway, thank you for all the effort that you put forth so far in this, and we look forward to your next report.
Great, thank you.
So I would just like to add one thing to the presentation this evening, and that is kind of an expectation of the timeline going forward. So our goal is to be before you, hopefully by the end of July, early August at the latest, with the finalized RFQ that would then, with your approval, be put out on the street, so to speak, so we can get responses from the development community. We would then analyze and interview those developers that respond to the RFQ, and then come to you in the fall with a recommendation to move kind of from that selection phase into the exclusive negotiating phase. That development team, along with city staff and PFAL, would go through, and the attorney's office would go through and finalize all the negotiations necessary. We would develop an initial pricing, and then come back to council with that price verification, with a development agreement and a funding plan, and then that would kind of be that final decision point from a council perspective. And we would move from essentially that decision point into the final design and then construction.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. City Manager, do you have anything? Oh, I guess we should go around the horn, huh? Well, go ahead. John?
No, nothing.
Councilman Tran or
Yes,
Councilman Tran?
sir. As a library advisor board representing for our Garden Grove City, I attend the second quarter. And during the meeting, they want us to approve the budgets, but they did not give us the detail. And so I asked, okay, what is our role? So they said that we would give recommendation, what to put in there. And I said, I cannot, if you just want me to come here and just say yes, then I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna waste the time. So after I brought up my concern, there was Supervisor Foley, and she felt the same way. And there was another city council member felt the same way, that we came to vote for a budget for the year, but the whole year, but we don't see the detail of what is it about. So at the end, the three of us vote absentee, right? No, abstain. Yeah, abstain. So I'm just want to bring the report back to our city, and the reason why I vote that. And so after that conversation, they said they're gonna send us some information about what the budget about, but I did not feel comfortable just to vote something that I didn't see. And so, yeah, I mean, like if there is opportunity for us to get some money to help our residents to enjoy more activity at the library, we would love to see that, but not seeing that, I did not feel comfortable. So that was the first one. Second, at the library, they have the activity Grab and Go from June 15 to July 23rd. Any children from 18 or under will be able to go there Tuesday to Friday to get free meal. So anyone, you just come, you don't have to sign up anything. Come, they will have activity. So that if, I want to pass it to our residents. Please come, enjoy, have fun, visit the library, and just have a free meal. Next one is, the last couple of days we've been going to ribbon cutting for September, the Boba Play, right, and the Multicultural Center, and many other businesses that we try to promote and help out. One of my goals is trying to support and help the businesses. And so I just feel like we have, our city have many great programs, the 25,000, the 50,000 loan, and etc. But there's some businesses that still don't know about that. So I went and talked to the Chamber of Commerce. We talked for 3 hours. But so one of the things is that the Chamber of Commerce tried to revise their membership, like how people pay, how much you pay, and what you get. But for businesses out there, if you need help or if you want to get more resources, please reach out to our city. We have many great programs. Or reach out to the Chamber of Commerce, and I will visit more of the business in my district. I have been doing that, but I want them to see that the resources from our city that really good. They just have to call, make a phone call, or reach out to someone. And then the last item is about the park. I know I talk about the park every time, but so over the last week, I met 2 different individuals, one at the church, and they were asking, Councilmember Cindy Tran, what are we doing with the park? And I, oh wow, I didn't know that he actually watching this and pay attention. And then just happened the same day I went to another location, and one of the dads were asking, oh, are we doing anything with the park? Did we get any money, etc. So then I was surprised that people actually pay attention, wanting to know the progress. And so I did talk to every time I see a representative, a senator, or anyone that have the money up there, I always ask them, and they said, yeah, just ask your staff to put in the request. So I did talk to our city manager, Lisa, and I know that our staff is working on a plan, so that way, a design, so that way we could, when we send the request, but I'm planning to write letter to all of them with our report, just so that they know how much it's gonna cost, and hopefully we will make some progress. But last week, I attended the deployment of the 40th Division Infantry at Los Alamitos. And there I met a couple of the senators and include Michelle Steele. And I mentioned to her about that too. She said, yep, tell your staff, send it up and we're gonna take a look. I'm gonna keep asking until someone, asking them, and then they have some money out there. They're gonna, hopefully that will come to our city and to fix or make our part better. I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, distinguished colleagues. I need my full 3 minutes to wrap up tonight, so please humor me because I know the meeting's getting long, but I consider tonight's meeting one of the most important meetings that I've been to, and the votes that we've casted tonight is very consequential. And I guarantee our residents whom I'm speaking to, because I've assumed that Channel 3 GGTV will provide the caption and everybody can view from their home, that in our budget the next 2 years, there's something for everybody. I'm so proud of that budget. There's something for everybody. You will see it come up in the streets, in the buildings, in the infrastructure, with the Navigation Center, which we celebrated today, groundbreaking. I'm very proud of that. It's a Tri-City collaborative project. We were all here at that event, and with our the fellow councils in Westminster and Fountain Valley. So shout out to them, and congratulations that we got this far. In the next couple of years, we'll be celebrating even further, and that's one of our priorities, to solve or help resolve the unhoused issues in our cities. But I want to start on a positive note tonight. I was very, very proud of all the young people that came in here, Pacifica High School's varsity softball team, and also the high school's NJROTC program. I see all these young people and how supportive family and community has been for them. And I see them as future leaders that's going to lead us into the next 20 years, and they're going to replace us, hopefully, people that we have recognized in the spotlights. But I also want to recognize two other events that I went to, and Cindy was there, the Orange County Multicultural Center. They had a grand opening over the weekend, and it was wonderful. I saw some of the best people. They're activists, they're volunteers, they're people who put out their time to serve our community. So I was very, very honored to be there in their presence and to meet all the people at the Orange County Multicultural Center. So congratulations to their opening, and hopefully people will come and access their service as well as volunteer there. The other event that we went to also on the same day, and city manager was there, was September Cafe. And it's a local business right on Bolsa. And don't forget that Garden Grove City has a border on Bolsa. We extend all the way down there, and in fact, McFadden in some areas, which actually I represent, District 4. So I'm very proud to see September and congratulate them and their owners for a very, very festive grand opening. They had lion dancing and everything, and treated everybody to snacks and ice cream and so on. So a shout out to them. Very big congratulations. But tonight I want to talk about a little bit more about Little Saigon, because we are on the border of Bolsa. We are part of Little Saigon, which was kind of recognized, I wouldn't say founded, 35 years ago. And there was an event this weekend to recognize at least the hanging of the signs of Little Saigon. It used to be Little Saigon next exit. Now it's Little Saigon next 3 exits. Well, at least one of those exits is Garden Grove. So we are very much at the heart of Little Saigon, and we need to be celebrated, and we need to recognize that we are home to Little Saigon, Vietnamese refugees. Councilwoman Kim Bernice was there. Our very distinguished councilman from Santa Ana was there. And Cindy Tran was there, as well as our city manager, and represented us very well at that event. But tonight, I want to thank the people who came in to pull permits, or at least get our vote on the Asian Festival, Arirang, and the Orange County Korean Festival organization. And I know they have all their paperwork together. They have their licensing. They're going to provide proper insurance and so on, and we voted to support them. And I want that kind of collaborative project to continue. We want to internationalize. We want the many communities to unite and work together. And I also want them to invite the mainstream and everybody else. We want to be inclusive, so we're not limited to any community group. And that is a very good development that I see is very positive in our city. So with that, I just want to wrap up on the budget, which again, I think we need to celebrate because we're not going under. We're coming out of the COVID very strongly, and that's thank you to all of you. I've just been here a few months, but that goes to the previous council and everybody that's been here on council, and you guys did a great job. And I think that is something to be proud of, and thank you all for staff for providing a very, very itemized budget. And I would say, when I ran for office, I ran on transparency, accountability, and fiscal conservatism. All three of those things I find in our budget. So that those things, I think everyone here can be very proud of it. And we can take credit for some of that, but it's mostly staff. We have been very transparent, accountable, and conservative in our spending. So I want the audience take that away tonight. And also, I agree with Nick that we should create the conditions so people can appear by video. If they're not here, give them the 3 minutes. Or phone. So let's do something about that. I've been long enough tonight. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. I'll be brief. On Friday night, we celebrated the 25th anniversary of the Garden Grove Community Foundation. I've been on the foundation board for several years, and I'm currently the vice president. I'm very honored to sit in that position. And we celebrated all that the foundation has done through the years, looking back and where we're headed. The foundation has done so many incredible things for the community, giving back, their strong leadership and vision to enhance the quality of life in Garden Grove. So the community concert was very fun. My colleagues, Councilwoman Kim Nguyen and Cindy Tran were there. We had a lot of fun with the photo booth as well. And it was just a great night overall. It was great to see so many residents of Garden Grove out celebrating not only the foundation, but just a great concert and a great evening at the Garden Amp in our city. And the Community Foundation actually is who puts on the summer concert series. And so I wanted to make mention of that and let everyone know that the first concert to kick off the season will be on the 22nd at Garden Grove Park. And then from there, we will head to Main Street and then over to Eastgate Park. So it'll be a great summer of concerts. I think this is one of our best lineups ever, quite honestly. So you can head to our city website, ggcity.org, or the Community Foundation Facebook page to get all the concert dates, and hope to see you there. Thank you.
Councilmember Nguyen.
Thank you very much. First item I have is I've been receiving, again, additional complaints regarding the freeway pedestrian overpass between Harbor and Fairview. I've driven past and I've noticed that there are some tents that are there. I know that is most likely Caltrans' responsibility, but I'd like for us to continue to pester them about that. The other one I have is a complaint from several residents on Garden Grove Boulevard and Simon Street regarding parking. I'm being told that there are individual households who have several cars parked on their property and on their grass, and also taking up street parking. So if we can look into that, that would be great. Some of my colleagues already touched upon the Central Cities Navigation Center groundbreaking. I'd just like to highlight that it is in District 6, and I'm very happy that it's finally come to fruition. I want to thank all of staff, PD, and everyone who's put in a lot of work into making sure that this was up and running. I'm glad to see that several of our council colleagues in neighboring cities were present. All the city managers were present. Supervisor Andrew Doe was there as well. And we had representatives from several offices. The other item I just wanted to touch upon is, I know we just did the budget, and so maybe revisiting this once I'm out, but for those of you who will still be here, I'd hope you guys consider, and if we can't, maybe next year we'll discuss it. But I brought this forward a few months ago now, regarding establishing pay for commissioners, and at the very least, planning, as they do meet as much as we do, and they do go through ad nauseum a lot of items, and so I believe that we should be looking into a stipend for them. I would say something as little as $50. I mean, that can at least cover gas, but it's something to incentivize more applicants to participate. I know that at the next meeting we'll be replacing someone who was from District 6, who was a civil engineer and probably one of the better qualified folks that I have put forward for planning, but unfortunately started a new job and was on call and unable to fulfill the duties of planning commission. So just want to make sure that this incentive also helps those who are working, who are younger. Not everyone is retired or has flexibility, and so this would be helpful to them. And also a comment just that I encourage staff and our new council members to really take time to prepare on routine items. Most of us have been here 7 years, some of us 4, and some of us only a few months. But in regards to some of the items that were spoken about earlier, I know a few years ago when we were in the pandemic and operating out of our community, our larger rooms, the issue regarding noticing in multiple languages and preferred language was addressed. And so that is why now we have a lot more robust programming there. And it was part of the contract that we signed recently with Republic Services. And that was maybe a year or a year and a half ago. So I know it's easy to forget, but these particular items, when we don't get very many public speakers all the time. And so when we do, I think it's something that staff should flag and make note for next ongoing years so that we have that in the back of our mind moving forward when these same issues come up. Because it's something we did address ad nauseum at that time. I remember there was confusion because folks were talking during council public hearing or oral communications, and council members forgot that that was a public hearing item during sanitary. So I remember that meeting vividly. And lastly, happy birthday to Councilwoman Klopfenstein.
So we'll go down to mine. I just want to also wish Councilmember Klopfenstein a happy birthday. 21 today. Yeah. This weekend. Oh, yeah. That's it. So I had to go out of town this weekend to celebrate my stepmother's 80th birthday. Had a big party up in Fresno, and so I wasn't able to attend the Multicultural Center event. However, it just reminded me of the program I started a few years ago for all Garden Grove residents. Once you hit that magic age of 80, and every 5 years after, 85, 90, 95, 100, 105, 110, 150, however, please send us, your council members, an email, name, birthday, address, and we will make sure that the city sends you out a certificate recognizing this. It's a senior recognition program that I started about 4 years ago. And it's still on the books. If anybody wants has a mother or father or grandfather or somebody in town, and they're in that category, please send us an email. And you might even get your council member to show up with the certificate and hand it to them. So with that being said, we did the Navigation Center, and that was a huge success. I mean, it was awesome to see it actually come into fruition and all the hours it's gone into. I know Councilmember Nguyen has been knocking on this door since I got here, before even. And so it's good to see that we can actually start now to compassionately deal with the homeless problem and not just the push around and that kind of stuff. We can actually address it, start to comply with the Boise decision, or at least make the first steps towards that. And so it'll be nice once it's up and running, and hopefully that'll be fairly soon. So we broke ground on that. And I know we generally just go around once, and I know you like to hit it a couple times.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Please give me 30 seconds to circle back. I'd be amiss if I didn't mention this, which we all also participate in the Brookhurst Place 2, groundbreaking for Phase 2. So if we don't mention that, I'd feel like we pass up on them. So we did celebrate the Phase 2 groundbreaking of Brookhurst Place. Met Mr. Kam Sang of Kam Sang Company and his Pan Construction Group, as well as other developers who was there on the project. And we had a shout out to our staff, building and planning division, and everybody who contributed to the Brookhurst Place. So congratulations on the groundbreaking of the Phase 2. Also, I want to remind our city manager and her A-team is that when I came on board, I promoted I called for internal promotions. So I'm going to stick to my gun and ask that we continue to do that unless there's any really persuasive reason we should go outside of the city. I'm all for internal promotions because I think our staff is doing a wonderful job. So I want to mention that before we close tonight. Thank you, George, for allowing me the time. And lastly, let's pray for our mayor, Steve Jones, and any family emergency because I miss him as much as you do a good job here. I have to say I miss Steve, and I wish him the best, and that he will overcome any issues and come back to us soon. Prayer for Steve Jones and his family. Thank you.
City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. I just have a couple announcements. It's just a friendly reminder that we still have openings available for the Workforce Activation and Readiness Program workshop on Wednesday, June 28th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the CMC. WARP is an employment development program that provides tools and skills needed to secure and maintain a gainful employment. The workshop also includes service provider presentations from OCAPICA, Stand Up for Kids, and a partner presentation from our LAOC Building and Construction Trades Council, a Q&A, and a resource fair. So attendees will also be entered into a raffle for a chance to win a Garden Grove giveaway basket and gift card. And this is a great opportunity for our youth and adults entering the workforce or interested in gaining new skills. So feel free to RSVP at ggcity.org/warp. And I also wanted to thank the council for your leadership and guidance as we advance the Navigation Center. There were a couple of hiccups during the early process of acquiring the real estate, and here we are at groundbreaking, and you'll be able to, we'll certainly be providing periodic updates to the council as the project progresses, and hopefully spring of 2024, we'll have our ribbon cutting. So thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney, Mr. City Attorney, do you have anything to report?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem. We did have closed session earlier this evening, and we don't have any reportable action, but we need to put that on the record. Thank you.
It's official. Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes,
just want to
ma'am.
wish everyone a happy Father's Day. Sorry, we forgot.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, we shall adjourn. Our next council member meeting will be June 27th at 5:30 p.m. No, that's wrong, 6:30 p.m.